Chapter 578. Boom. The fire suddenly soared into the sky. Mohina Dojin continuously poured the sun's fire into the sea of fire. Within the sea of fire, the golden dragon of providence forcefully twisted its huge body. You want to destroy my body and soul? Haha, Mohina Dojin, your current virtuous Dharma idol is far from enough. You are too far away from the great Zhao sacred ground. You can't even use 1/100th of your strength. You want to destroy my body and soul? Yan Chuan laughed sinisterly within the fire. Boom. The sea of fire exploded. Roar. The golden dragon of providence's head suddenly stretched out a huge sea of fire. With a tyrannical force, it broke through the sea of fire and roared furiously as it charged towards Mohina Dojin. Boom. The virtuous Dharma idol and the golden dragon of providence collided. To be precise, the golden dragon of providence's claws grabbed Mohina Dojin's body. Boom, boom, boom. The two experts tangled with each other, each releasing a huge amount of strength. Evil creature, how dare you! Mohina Dojin's furious roar came from the sky. A virtuous Dharma idol of less than 1/100th? Aha, Mohina Dojin? I'm not an ant that you can knead. If you dare to destroy my body and soul, I will destroy your virtuous Dharma idol and destroy your virtuous Dharma idol. Yan Chuan said viciously. Roar. The dragon head roared at Mohina Dojin. Its dragon claws released a ferocious force as it tore fiercely. Rumble. While all the cultivators were petrified, the savage dragon claws tore apart Mohina Dojin's virtuous Dharma idol. The powerful virtuous Dharma idol was torn apart by the golden dragon of providence in front of everyone. Tear him apart? Mohina Dojin roared angrily. Evil creature, bastard, I will tear you to pieces. I will make sure you never reincarnate. Boom. Mohina Dojin was torn in half by the golden dragon of luck in front of all the cultivators in the world. Torn to shreds. The two halves of the virtuous Dharma idol suddenly collapsed, turning into scattered virtuous Dharma idols. Boom. The dismembered corpse turned into chi of merit and slowly dissipated into the void. High up in the sky, Mohina Dojin's virtuous Dharma idol disappeared, leaving only one thing in the air. The ferocious golden dragon of destiny, the roaring golden dragon of destiny. This was the karmic Dharma idol of a powerful Tao Lord. He had been torn apart. Tao Lord Mantis had been torn apart by an unknown Chi realm cultivator in front of everyone in the world? Torn apart? This savage tear not only tore apart Mohina Dojin's virtuous Dharma idol, but it also tore apart the hearts of all the cultivators. The entire Providence Square was filled with petrified cultivators, their eyeballs dropping to the ground. Even Guyu Holy Sun was completely petrified when he saw his father being torn apart. This is impossible, this should not happen, this does not exist. The virtuous Dharma idol dissipated, and the golden dragon of destiny suddenly roared to the sky. The dragon's roar filled the sky, spreading throughout Julu City and into the ears of countless cultivators. It was as if it was announcing the birth of a new expert. At this moment, Mou Shi and Yi Feng were indescribably excited. They clenched their fists tightly as if the one roaring in the sky was not Yan Chuan, but themselves. They were very excited and trembling. It was as if their souls were trembling. Chapter 579. The Golden Dragon of Providence tearing the sun apart? In the light world. At this moment in front of the Light Palace, everyone was shocked. Oh my god, Yan Chuan has really defied the heavens? That's Mohina Dojin, that's Mohina Dojin. Dongfang Jingpai exclaimed. Not only Dongfang Jingpai, even Meng Rongrong was covering her mouth, afraid that she would scream. What had just happened? The scene of Tao Lord being torn apart was simply too explosive and too ferocious. Tao Lord was one of the most powerful figures in the entire universe, and this violent tearing had caused everyone's blood to begin to boil. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Yet, it was happening right in front of his eyes. Yan Chuan's domineering and barbaric nature was vividly displayed by that forceful tear. Meng Rongrong's breathing became hurried when she saw this scene. After taking a few deep breaths to calm down, Meng Rongrong looked at Yan Chuan again with a complicated look in her eyes. The other three who had entered with him were also astonished. Only Meng Lingtian squinted his eyes. It seems that the legend is true. Someone did it. Someone actually did it. Meng Lingtian muttered to himself. Heaven's Gift Square. The golden dragon of providence that Yan Chuan possessed raised its head and roared. Its body danced in the air, exuding a boundless domineering aura. In the Heaven's Gift Square, some people gradually recovered from their shock. Meng Ziqiu and the others' faces twitched violently. Mohina Dojin? He tore apart Mohina Dojin. A Chi realm cultivator tore apart an upper ethereal realm cultivator? Am I crazy or is the world crazy? I've gone mad. The sounds of discussion began to ring out. Voices of excitement and madness could be heard from all directions. From the beginning of the Heavenly Bestowment Conference until now, it had already exceeded everyone's expectations. After today's battle, Yan Xuan's name would definitely resound throughout the East and even the world. What a shocking scene. In the previous tournament, the Blood Demon had appeared and fought in all directions. This year's competition was simply indescribable. Starting from the sovereign personage, they had been challenging the cultivator's nerves. After the dragon roar ended, the golden dragon of Providence suddenly twisted its body and swooped down. Whirlwinds rose around the golden dragon. The dragon's head was lofty, and it instantly appeared in front of the 5 figures. Guyu Holy Sun, Changsan, Qing King, Chess King, Book King. Whoosh! A strong wind blew, and the dragon head stopped in front of Guyu Holy Sun. Guyu Holy Sun clutched his chest as blood trickled from the corner of his mouth. His eyelids twitched violently. Guyu Holy Sun was deeply affected by today's events, so much so that Guyu Holy Sun couldn't accept it. His father, who had always been high and mighty and invincible, had actually been torn apart by an ant like Yan Xuan? Although it was only a virtuous Dharma idol, it was still his father's body. How could it be torn apart in front of everyone? It was torn apart. This scene completely overturned Guyu Holy Sun's understanding. It was too terrifying and too impossible. The dragon head instantly appeared in front of Guyu Holy Sun, and a vicious aura surged toward Guyu. Step. Guyu subconsciously took a step back. Although it was only a subconscious step, it revealed Guyu Holy Sun's inner fear. It was an instinctive fear. It was different from when the Jade Emperor retreated from the sword array. Although he was not as strong as the Jade Emperor, he was unwilling to admit defeat. His willpower was still strong, but this time his willpower was being forced back by Yan Xuan. His heart was giving in. If Yan Xuan did not die, he would forever be Guyu Holy Sun's inner demon, and it would be difficult for him to improve his cultivation. Chapter 580. Guyu Holy Sun realized that he had lost his composure. He calmed himself down and asked, "What are you trying to do?" The dragon stared at Guyu and said, "Don't worry, I won't kill you. A Chi state cultivator is telling me that he won't kill me? Is he pitying me?" The ancient Yu Saint child's face was filled with shame and anger, but he still held it in and did not say anything. "Go back and tell Mohina Dojin not to mess with me. He can't afford to mess with me." Yan Xuan said coldly. "He can't afford to mess with you?" Before Guyu Holy Sun could say anything, the surrounding cultivators were stunned. What did Yan Xuan just say? Mohina Dojin can't afford to mess with you? Are you crazy? What you tore apart was just the virtuous Dharma idol. How strong is Mohina Dojin? Are you going to hide in the golden dragon forever? Ha ha ha. Guyu Holy Sun was so angry that he started laughing. The golden dragon squinted its eyes. What a joke. Yan Xuan, my father can't afford to mess with you? What a joke. Let me tell you, you destroyed my father's virtuous Dharma idol in front of everyone today. Just you wait, my father will tear you into pieces. My father said that you will never be able to reincarnate, so he will definitely make sure that you will never be able to reincarnate. Just wait for your death, just wait for your death. Ancient Moon Holy Sun immediately shouted. Roar. The golden dragon suddenly let out another dragon roar. The vast sound wave made the crazy ancient Yu Saint child suddenly quiver, and he immediately stopped talking. If you want to make a scene, go back and make a scene. Just tell them what I said. If you talk too much and annoy me, I will tear you apart. The golden dragon said fiercely. Guyu Holy Sun's face darkened. He had never been threatened like this before. A Chi state cultivator was threatening him and he didn't even dare to fart. What a humiliation. But at this moment he could only endure. The golden dragon of destiny glared fiercely at Guyu. Right at that moment, a thunderous roar reverberated throughout Julu City. You're someone I can't afford to offend? An angry voice with terrifying might came from the north. Every word seemed to be much louder. Clearly, the person who spoke was rushing over at an astonishing speed. Under that terrifying speed, when the last word of rise was heard, the sky was filled with huge explosions. Rumble. Amidst a series of loud booms, a powerful aura pressed down on the entire Julu City. Buzz. In an instant, everyone in Julu City felt a great threat. It was as if the heavens were descending. The powerful pressure seemed to be pressing down on countless cultivators until they could not stand up straight. They could only bend their bodies and try to resist. However, this aura was too powerful and too violent. The Heaven's Gift Square was the first to bear the brunt. Ka. A large number of Shioja could not stand it any longer and knelt down. Under this powerful aura they were forced to kneel down. Many of the Shioja were humiliated, but more of them were terrified. This aura was too ferocious. It was so ferocious that they could not even think of resisting. The huge pressure was directed at the Golden Dragon of Destiny. Buzz. The Golden Dragon of Destiny trembled violently as if it was about to be crushed by this aura. Roar! The Golden Dragon roared and exploded with thousands of rays of golden light. Only then did it manage to resist this aura. A figure in a Taoist robe floated above the Heaven's Gift Square. The powerful aura was emitted from his body. Just his aura alone was enough to put the Golden Dragon of Destiny in a difficult position. The figure floating in the air was wearing a golden Taoist robe. He had a Taoist hairstyle and a sun-shaped mark in between his eyebrows. His eyes were cold as he looked at the Golden Dragon of Destiny coldly. Chapter 581. He floated in the air as if all the people in the world were beneath his feet. The great pressure pressed down on the entire Julu city. Father, you're here so soon? Guyu Holy Sun shouted excitedly. Father? In the square, the faces of the cultivators who were not forced to kneel down changed. Guyu Holy Sun could only have one father, Mohina Dojin. There was no golden light, only the aura. This was not the virtuous Dharma idol, but Mohina Dojin's real body. His real body is here? So soon? Meng Zichio and the others' faces changed. Even a Tao Lord would not be able to arrive so soon. There was only one possibility. Mohina Dojin was not far from here. Mohina Dojin was here. Within that vast aura, there was a great amount of anger. The virtuous Dharma idol was destroyed. This was not only a slight decrease in power, but also a challenge to his dignity. No, it was trampled on. Yan Xuan had just trampled on Mohina Dojin's dignity. Whoosh! Almost instantly, everyone's eyes gathered on Yan Xuan and the Golden Dragon of Providence. Oh no, what should we do now? Mo Yushi's face changed. In the world of light. Mohina Dojin. Damn, why is he here? So soon? Yan Xuan is in trouble. He's really in trouble. Dongfang Jingpai said worriedly. Meng Rongrong also frowned. Teacher. Meng Rongrong finally could not help but look at Meng Lingtian. Meng Lingtian did not say anything. Instead, he looked at the Golden Dragon of Providence. Not changing in the face of danger? This Yan Xuan is impressive. He's already at the end of his rope, but his expression did not change? Meng Lingtian exclaimed. When Meng Lingtian said that, everyone looked at the Golden Dragon of Providence. Indeed, although the Golden Dragon of Providence was trembling under Mohina Dojin's aura, its eyes were still domineering and fierce. How can this be? Everyone was shocked. On the Heaven's Gift Square, Tao Lord Black Sun stared coldly at the Golden Dragon of Destiny. The Golden Dragon of Destiny stared coldly at Tao Lord Black Sunday. Roar! With a dragon roar, the Golden Dragon of Luck suddenly swayed its body and charged toward Yan Xuan. Rumble! The countless sword chi that surrounded Yan Xuan's body suddenly exploded. In the blink of an eye, only the Jade Emperor's sword was left. The Jade Emperor's sword formation. Roar! The Golden Dragon of Destiny roared and shot straight toward the God Investiture Scroll. Boom! As the Golden Dragon of Providence charged into the God Bestowment strategy, Yan Xuan's body suddenly opened its eyes. Mohina Dojin looked coldly at Yan Xuan. Yan Xuan opened his eyes and looked coldly at Mohina Dojin. Humph, Golden Dragon of Providence? Yan Xuan? I said that I would tear you into pieces and make sure you never reincarnate. I'll definitely honor my words. Tao Lord Black Sun said in a frosty tone. As he spoke, the surrounding void seemed to have been frozen by the cold air. Large amounts of frost and snow suddenly fell. Yan Xuan, who was waiting to beg for mercy, did not appear. Yan Xuan looked coldly at Mohina Dojin and sneered. Did you hear what this emperor said earlier? Yan Xuan asked coldly. Oh. Mohina Dojin looked at Yan Xuan in surprise. Is this person crazy? Even though I am here, he dares to speak nonsense? Go back to where you came from. Don't try to provoke this emperor. Yan Xuan threatened coldly with a glare. Don't try to provoke this emperor? Countless cultivators in the plaza turned to stone again, including Guyu Holy Sun. He opened his mouth and looked at Yan Xuan like a fool. What did I hear? Did I go crazy again? Or did this world go crazy again? He is threatening Mohina Dojin? It looks like I went crazy again. The surrounding cultivators looked at Yan Chuan in shock. Chapter 582. Heaven's Gift Plaza. Countless practitioners stared at Yan Chuan in a daze. Their expressions were as blank as they could be. If they did not experience the previous scene, they would definitely think that Yan Chuan was crazy, absolutely crazy. However, from the beginning of the one duel until now, Yan Chuan had built confidence in the hearts of countless practitioners, giving them a feeling of trust. However, Mohina Dojin was too strong, only one step away from becoming an immortal. This was not the virtuous Dharma idol, this was the real body had come personally. Could Yan Chuan still do it? Could he still hold on? Looking at Yan Chuan's robe fluttering in the wind, countless practitioners were speechless. They did not believe it, but they were also looking forward to it. Go back to where you came from. Don't try to provoke me. Yan Chuan's words resounded throughout the entire Heaven's Gift Plaza, and even reached Mohina Dojin's ears. Mohina Dojin's eyes were cold. Today his dignity was being challenged again and again? Where did this brat come from? How dare he be so arrogant? Mohina Dojin's eyes were cold. You're courting death. Mohina Dojin roared. Boom. Once again he stretched out his palm and slapped towards Yan Chuan. This time it was still a huge palm print. This time the palm print was many times stronger than the one from the virtuous Dharma idol. The surrounding space seemed to be distorted. As the palm pressed down, golden light shot out in all directions as if a sun was falling. The intense light caused more than half of the practitioners to be unable to open their eyes. Boom. Before the palm pressed down, the Heaven's Gift Plaza suddenly sank. Just the powerful aura alone caused the ground to sink by more than 10 feet. Countless practitioners staggered and fell, looking at the golden palm pressing towards Yan Chuan in horror. Before the palm arrived, the golden light had already illuminated Yan Chuan to an extremely dazzling degree. In the face of this palm, Yan Chuan did not show any signs of fear. Instead, his eyes were filled with ferocity. He stood with his hands behind his back, and the golden dragon of destiny circled around him to resist this aura. Bus. The Jade King's sword was on Yan Chuan's back. It was like it wanted to rush forward, but Yan Chuan suppressed it. He looked coldly at Mohina Dojin's palm that was filled with immense power. It seemed that Yan Chuan was about to be buried under the golden palm. Guyu Holy Sun sneered. Meng Ziqiu and the others tried to stop him, but it was too late. No. Mou, she screamed. The golden light had already illuminated Yan Chuan. In the blink of an eye, the palm print was right in front of him. In just an instant, Yan Chuan would be completely vaporized by this palm print. At this moment, looking at the golden palm print, Yan Chuan's ferocious face suddenly revealed a rare smile. Whoosh. In an instant, the entire Heaven's Gift Plaza was filled with raging winds. Suddenly, a white fist appeared beside Yan Chuan. The white fist was constantly growing in size. Raging winds blew around the fist and swept across the entire Heaven's Gift Plaza, and even the entire Jilu city. The white fist met the golden palm and collided with it with a loud bang. Hong! The loud explosion caused countless practitioners to bleed from their ears. The ground shook and countless practitioners who just got up fell down again. Jilu Mountain began to shake from the loud noise. The entire Jilu city seemed to be shaking as well. Rumble. In an instant, Jilu city shook and countless practitioners staggered. The golden light illuminated the entire city, and the wind blew in all directions. Chapter 583. My ears. My house is collapsing. Jilu Mountain is collapsing. In Jilu City, countless cultivators screamed in fear. Many cultivators in the Heaven's Gift Square fell to the ground. The earthquake in Jilu City only calmed down after 10 breaths of time. In the Heaven's Gift Square, the white fist and the golden palm collided. After a strong shockwave, the collision dissipated. My ears can't hear. BFFF. I'm severely injured. In the Heaven's Gift Square, many cultivators fell to the ground and groaned in pain. Of course, most of them were staring at Yan Chuan. Mou, she was the most anxious. She stabilized herself and looked over. Yan Chuan was still standing there. Facing the strong collision, Yan Chuan's eyelids did not even twitch. He was still looking coldly at Mohina Dojin. Mohina Dojin also frowned and looked down. At this moment, another white-robed figure appeared beside Yan Chuan. The white-robed figure's fist was glowing with white light. His eyes were wide open and cold light shot out. He was looking at Mohina Dojin in the sky. He was the one who threw the punch just now. He was the one who blocked Mohina Dojin for Yan Chuan. By Ditian? Meng Ziqiu shouted from not far away. Beside Yan Chuan was the king of the tiger race Bai Ditian. Who is he? He was the one who helped Yan Chuan block Mohina Dojin's palm? What a powerful punch. Is he also in the upper emptiness realm? That is Mohina Dojin's original body. Everyone was shocked as they looked at Bai Ditian, who was beside Yan Chuan, in shock. Spider King smiled bitterly. At this moment, Spider King finally understood what kind of person he had offended. At that time he had wanted to capture him. Mo Yushi's expression softened. Yifeng heaved a sigh of relief. There was also a white kitten on Bai Ditian's shoulder. Miao Yan Chuan, I've called Old White for you. Amazing, right? Miao immediately jumped onto Yan Chuan's shoulder and said proudly. Oh. On the other side, Qing Long and Bai Long flew in from outside the Heaven's Gift Plaza, towards Mo Yushi. Saintess, I won't let you down, Qing Long said with a smile. Evidently, before the Heaven's Bestowment Conference, Yan Chuan had instructed Qing Long to bring Miao to invite Bai Ditian. Mo Yushi nodded, but she was more concerned about Yan Chuan. Bai Ditian sent Mohina Dojin flying with a single punch. The two peerless masters stared at each other. Who are you? Mohina Dojin asked coldly. Bai Ditian's punch really surprised Mohina Dojin. One had to know that although he had not used his full strength, he had used 70% of his strength. But it had still been scattered by the other party? Yan Chuan's backer? He was Yan Chuan's backer? A mere chi state cultivator had the backing of an upper void stage master? Dao Lord Fury Sun was bewildered for a moment. Day attendant, you don't even recognize me? Bai Ditian said coldly. Day attendant? Mohina Dojin suddenly narrowed his eyes. There were not many people in the world who knew and dared to call him a day attendant. No, as the Dazhao sacred ground grew stronger, no one dared to call him a day attendant. Those who called him day attendants were all famous heroes from thousands of years ago. Day attendant? He knows me? Mohina Dojin looked at Bai Ditian again and looked at him carefully. He frowned slightly, unable to recall who he was. A breeze blew around Bai Ditian as if he had become one with the wind. Chapter 584. Wind follows the tiger? 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 A figure suddenly flashed across his mind. That figure matched the one in front of him. Bai Ditian? Mohina Dojin's expression changed. The formidable martial artist that he looked up to 8,000 years ago? Bai Ditian looked coldly at Mohina Dojin and did not say anything. It was obvious that he agreed with Mohina Dojin's guess. Aren't you dead? Mohina Dojin asked in a low voice. He looked up to Bai Ditian in the past. Now that he had reached the upper void realm, there was no need for him to look up to Bai Ditian anymore. But why did the dead Bai Ditian appear again? Life is unpredictable. I'm alive now. You can leave. Send my regards to Jingting. Bai Ditian said plainly. Mohina Dojin looked at Bai Ditian in shock. He wanted to attack Bai Ditian to break his past impression of Bai Ditian and to correct himself. However, Bai Ditian was too powerful back then. He was even a formidable martial artist that Sacred Lord Jingting wanted to recruit. For a moment, Mohina Dojin fell silent. While Dao Lord Morning Sun was bewildered, he looked at Yan Chuan again. When he saw Yan Chuan's faint smile, his expression darkened. Bai Ditian, did you come out to protect Yan Chuan? Mohina Dojin asked again. At this moment, Mohina Dojin was no longer just looking down on Yan Chuan. Bai Ditian was just like Jingting, whom he had followed back then. Although Jingting's cultivation level was not high back then, Jingting's prowess had already been established. Yes. Bai Ditian said. Mohina Dojin's expression changed. He looked at Yan Chuan again. What? Back then I tried to recruit you but you rejected me. Now you want to protect Yan Chuan? Mohina Dojin said coldly. It's none of your business. Bai Ditian said coldly. Miao Yan Chuan saved little Bai of old Bai's family. Did you save him? Miao suddenly shouted to the sky. Huh? Mohina Dojin raised his eyebrows. Little Bai of the old Bai family? Lao Bai was Bai Ditian, but who was Little Bai? Although he didn't know who Little White was, Mohina Dojin could sense that Little White was someone very important to Bai Ditian. Did Yan Chuan receive Bai Ditian's protection because he saved someone important to Bai Ditian? After coming to this conclusion, Mohina Dojin let out a long sigh of relief. Everything made sense now. He looked coldly at Yan Chuan. What a lucky brat. Bai Ditian's appearance didn't just mean that he had met a formidable martial artist. There were also many connections involved. This was because Jingting had valued Bai Ditian greatly back then. Mohina Dojin couldn't decide how to deal with Bai Ditian. Looking at Bai Ditian, he took a deep breath and said, Guyu, let's go. Father, are you going to let Yan Chuan off just like that? Guyu Holy Sun immediately shouted. Guyu Holy Sun wanted Yan Chuan dead so badly. His father was here. Yan Chuan was supposed to be dead, but he was still alive and well. What? Why was this happening? Mohina Dojin looked coldly at Guyu. Father. Guyu Holy Sun shivered and didn't dare to say anything else. With a wave of his sleeves, Mohina Dojin brought Guyu Holy Sun and left instantly. In the blink of an eye, Xiao Qin vanished from everyone's sight. Holy Sun Dao Lord, wait for me. Chang San and the others quickly gave chase in horror. Mohina Dojin left. He suddenly left just like that? Countless cultivators in the plaza still could not accept this sudden fact. That was Mohina Dojin's main body. Bai Ditian? Can anyone tell me who Bai Ditian is? Bai Ditian? Who is he? What is the relationship between Bai Ditian and Yan Chuan? Countless cultivators in the plaza revealed confused expressions. Chapter 585. Mohina Dojin had given up so easily? Bai Ditian? A new expert had appeared in front of the countless cultivators. Who was he? He had forced Mohina Dojin back with one punch? No, he had not forced Mohina Dojin back. Almost everyone could see that Bai Ditian was at the upper void realm, and Mohina Dojin had left because he knew Bai Ditian. No one thought that Mohina Dojin would lose. After all, Bai Ditian and Mohina Dojin had not even started fighting. What? Bai Ditian looked around. Finally, he said to Yan Chuan, I'll wait for you in the East Hall. Whoosh. In the blink of an eye, Bai Ditian disappeared. Once Bai Ditian left, countless cultivators looked at Yan Chuan. The Emperor Yan Chuan Bai Ditian? There were too many surprises for the countless cultivators today. No matter what method Yan Chuan had used, he had forced Mohina Dojin back. He had even forced Mohina Dojin's main body to retreat. After today, Yan Chuan's name would spread throughout the world. In the radiant world. That was too exciting. Aha, he forced Mohina Dojin back with one punch. This Bai Ditian is too awesome. He actually knows Yan Chuan? Dong Fang Jingpai exclaimed. Meng Rongrong sighed secretly. At the same time, she looked at Yan Chuan with a complicated expression. Meng Lingtian frowned as he looked at Bai Ditian. There was a sigh in his eyes. Why, old Meng, do you know Bai Ditian? Dong Fang Jingpai was surprised. Back then, they came to the Julu Academy to seek education. Meng Lingtian said thoughtfully. Couple? Seek education? Oh. Dong Fang Jingpai was slightly stunned. Oh. Don't tell me you're talking about Bai Ditian. Dong Fang Jingpai's eyes widened. Meng Lingtian sighed slightly and said, Back then when I officially entered the light world, I only met Bai Ditian briefly. However, he left a deep impression on me. After so many years he has changed a lot. Oh, really? Oh Meng, how old are you? Dong Fang Jingpai looked at Meng Lingtian in surprise. You have no respect for your elders. Copy the words of the sages 100 times. Meng Lingtian said sullenly. As he spoke, he flung his sleeves and left. Oh, copy 100 times? Old Meng, no teacher, I was wrong, don't make me copy, the number of words will kill me. Dong Fang Jingpai cried and followed. The battle outside was almost over and there was nothing left to see. Meng Lingtian was bored and left. Meng Rongrong and the other three were still looking outside. Heaven's Gift Square on the broken arena. Yan Chuan looked around with the God Investiture scroll in his hand. Congratulations, Mr. Yan. You've been blessed by the investiture of the gods. You can now open the 5th Academy. Meng Zichio exclaimed. As soon as Meng Zichio spoke, countless cultivators in the surroundings reacted. Congratulations, Mr. Yan. Congratulations, Mr. Yan, for obtaining the God Investiture scroll. Congratulations. Countless cultivators congratulated him, and many Confucian cultivators even looked at him with admiration. Today, at the Heaven's Gift Conference, he would definitely become an immortal legend. At the same time, 100 years later, perhaps Yan Chuan would be able to host the Heaven's Gift Conference. Many cultivators from various sects looked at him with friendly eyes. Mr. Monroe showed a hint of bitterness. Today's battle had far exceeded his expectations. He didn't know if he would complete Mohina Dojin's task when he returned. Sigh. Mr. Monroe sighed slightly. He quietly left the congratulatory crowd. Yifeng saw Wen Ruo leave, but he didn't stop her, because he could see that Wen Ruo couldn't stop her at all. Mr. Yi, please say goodbye to Prince Yan for me. I've done what I should, and it's time to return and report to my master. Spider King said solemnly. Chapter 586. I will pass on Mr. Wang's words. Yifeng nodded. Wang Zhu nodded and left as well. She led Qinglong and the rest as they quietly watched Yan Chuan on the stage. Their eyes revealed an emotional smile. Yan Chuan looked around and saw countless cultivators congratulating him. Yan Chuan smiled. He reached out and pressed his hand down. The surrounding cultivators seemed to know that Yan Chuan had something to say, and they all stopped talking. Thank you for your support today. Next year, on the 9th day of the 9th lunar month, near Carefree City, I will hold the Great God Investiture Ceremony. All cultivators are welcome regardless of their cultivation level. Yan Chuan said. Great God Investiture Ceremony? Most people thought that Yan Chuan's Great God Investiture Ceremony was to establish a huge academy. Instantly, countless cultivators spoke again. I will definitely attend Mr. Yan's Great God Investiture Ceremony. I will definitely be there. Mr. Yan, don't worry. Voices of agreement rose one after another. Yan Chuan smiled. Yifeng, who was below the stage, also smiled. The Great God Investiture Ceremony would invite countless cultivators? This wasn't just a ceremony. It was more of an invitation to countless cultivators. In these 2 years, Yan Chuan and Yifeng had conversed a lot. Yifeng understood what kind of great country he was going to establish. A great country that could accommodate hundreds of rivers. A place where all the talents in the world gathered and experts stood in great numbers. Under the gazes of countless cultivators, Yan Chuan left the Heaven's Gift Plaza. He left behind a group of people from the Julu Academy with bitter smiles. East Hall. Bai Diqian and Yan Chuan sat opposite each other and drank. Mohina Dojin? You will have a lot of trouble in the future. I remember that this Sun attendant has an excellent foundation, but he is rather narrow-minded. Bai Diqian said lightly. It doesn't matter. If there's a next time, he might not be able to do anything to me. Yan Chuan nodded. If a normal Qijing cultivator had said this, Bai Diqian would have looked at him with disdain. However, it was Yan Chuan, so anything was possible. After all, 2 years ago when he had clashed with Yan Chuan's will, the battle between the dragon and the tiger was still fresh in his mind. As I said before, I will not participate in your military affairs. You are not to interfere with the tiger race's affairs. Bai Diqian said in a low voice. Don't worry, Yan Chuan will naturally honor my words. However, since the tiger is the national animal, you shouldn't stop the soldiers of my dynasty from establishing friendships with the experts of the tiger race. Yan Chuan said with a smile. The tiger clan was the national beast, and other sects were not allowed to interfere. As such, they could only form an alliance with their own country. Sooner or later, the soldiers and the tiger clan would form a deep friendship. Yan Chuan could even faintly see the future of the tiger cavalry. Don't worry. Bai Diqian said with a meaningful smile. Bai Diqian naturally understood what Yan Chuan meant and did not object. After all, the tiger clan still needed to rely on the country's providence. Furthermore, he might need Yan Chuan's country in the future. The tiger cavalry? If Yan Chuan used the tiger cavalry, he would be the leader of the tiger race. In the future, when he faced the Zhugong, the tiger cavalry would definitely be able to fight for him. Within 10 days, I will leave Julu City and return to the Yan state to prepare for the establishment of the country. On the 9th day of the 9th month, the country will be officially established. If you can return early, come and observe the ceremony. Yan Chuan said with a smile. And once I have subdued the various tiger races, I will rush back as soon as possible. Bai Diqian nodded. For 10 days, Yan Chuan settled various matters in Julu City. He helped Qinglong and the rest find businesses and purchase various items. Yan Chuan, I want to return to the Great Zhao Sacred Ground. She said. Chapter 587. Return to the Dazhao Sacred Ground? You're not going to Carefree City with me? Yan Chuan frowned. She smiled and shook her head. I have to return to the Dazhao Sacred Ground. I know you are worried that Mohina Dojin will harm me. Don't worry, the Lord has instructed that he won't make things difficult for me. When you establish your country, I will definitely be there. Looking at Yan Chuan took a deep breath and nodded. Qinglong and Bailong will follow you just in case. Immediately looked at Qinglong and Bailong smiling faintly. Yan Chuan shook his head and said, No need. Let them protect you. No, Qinglong and Bailong will follow you. She said stubbornly. How about this, Qinglong will follow me? Yan Chuan compromised. She nodded. Watching She leave, Yan Chuan felt a sense of loss and sighed. Miao, sister Mo is leaving too. Miao looked at She reluctantly. Alright, we'll meet again on the 9th of September next year. Look around Julu City and buy whatever you like. We'll be leaving in a few days. Yen Chuan said to Miao Miao. 2 days before the deadline, Qing Long brought Miao and Yi Feng back from Julu City to buy a large number of things. As soon as everyone returned to the square of Dongfang Palace, they saw a travel-worn man lying on the square. The man's clothes were in tatters, and he seemed to be in a deep sleep. Someone's here? Qing Long's face changed. Miao, it's Zhu Jiansheng. Miao shouted. Miao recognized him immediately. Zhu Jiansheng, the disciple of Dai sect's Mo Wuhui. In the past, he followed Yen Chuan into the Feng Shui array, went to the Demon Wind Mountain Range and even fought for Carefree City. A second-generation disciple of Dai sect. Zhu Jiansheng? Qing Long also recognized him. Qing Long, Yi Feng and Miao quickly surrounded him. Qing Long placed his hand on Zhu Jiansheng's pulse. I'm fine, I'm just too tired. Qing Long said. As Azure Dragon spoke, he immediately woke Zhu Jiansheng up. Zhu Jiansheng quivered and immediately opened his eyes. Mr. Yi? Miao? Senior Azure Dragon. Zhu Jiansheng immediately recognized them. Zhu Jiansheng, what? Why are you so tired? How did you find this place? Yi Feng frowned. Zhu Jiansheng's expression suddenly changed. He asked anxiously, where's Peak Master Tian? Where's Martial Uncle? Miao? You're looking for Yen Chuan? He has something to do and went out, but he'll be back soon. Miao said strangely. I want to see Martial Uncle, I want to see Martial Uncle. Zhu Jiansheng said Jiaohu. Under the Jiaohu his body went limp. He was obviously too tired. You should rest. My king will be back soon. Yi Feng comforted. Miao, what happened? Miao asked in surprise. 100 Saints Righteousness Altar. 100 Saints protected Goddess Jiqin. It was an empty sacred ground. Yen Chuan came to Goddess Jiqin alone. He sighed slightly and held 3 yellow roses in his hand. He looked at a position in the void in front of him. I'll pay attention to Julu Mountain every day. You haven't come out. You haven't come out yet. Yen Chuan smiled bitterly. In the world of light, Meng Rongrong looked at Yen Chuan in an image. She bit her lips and had a complicated expression. Because Yen Chuan would come here every day to take a look. Every time he came he wouldn't say anything. He would only bow to Goddess Jiqin and then look at the entrance of the world of light. Although Yen Chuan didn't say anything, Meng Rongrong knew that Yen Chuan was here for her. Looking at Yen Chuan in the image, Meng Rongrong didn't know what to say. Every day Meng Rongrong would come to take a look. Looking at Yen Chuan, she wanted to forgive Yen Chuan but she couldn't. She looked at Yen Chuan in a daze. Today Yen Chuan was different from the past. Today Yen Chuan spoke and brought 3 yellow roses. I'm leaving. I can't wait for you. I can't say goodbye to you. Maybe you don't even know that I've been here. Yen Chuan smiled bitterly. Meng Rongrong bit her lips and looked at Yen Chuan in a daze. Sigh. Yen Chuan sighed deeply and placed the 3 yellow roses in his hand at the entrance of the world of light. Taking a deep breath, Yen Chuan looked at the entrance and was silent for a while. With a trace of loneliness he turned and left. Looking at the 3 yellow roses on the ground, Meng Rongrong instantly understood the meaning of the 3 yellow roses. 2 lines of tears fell unconsciously. She was speechless. Chapter 588. Julu City Dongfang Hall. Martial Uncle, I finally met you. Zhu Jiansheng exclaimed anxiously. Sorrow was written all over his face. Zhu Jiansheng? What happened? Yen Chuan's face darkened. Martial Uncle, old sect leader, he's gone. Zhu Jiansheng cried. What? You mean Feng Tairan? Yen Chuan raised an eyebrow. Yes, old sect leader died 7 months ago. Zhu Jiansheng said sadly. Feng Tairan? The sect leader of the Dai sect, Yen Chuan's father, Yen Tao's master. After Yen Tao's death he took over the Dai sect. After Yen Chuan entered the Dai sect he took care of him a lot. Welcome back. Feng Tairan smiled. I'm leaving soon. Take good care of yourself. Feng Tairan comforted. It's not that I'm generous, it's just that I think highly of you. Feng Tairan smiled. Yes, I'll pass it on to you. I don't know why you've recruited so many soldiers, but I know you must have a plan. Your foresight is further than mine. The Dai sect will only grow stronger in your hands. I'll protect it for you. Feng Tairan said solemnly. Feng Tairan? The past was still vivid in his mind. Although Yen Chuan did not recognize him as martial uncle because of his father's death, Feng Tairan had always supported him since he entered the Dai sect. He stood his ground against all opposition and supported all his decisions. From Peak Master Tian to Carefree City, Feng Tairan had done everything he could to support Yan Chuan. He had even mobilized all the experts in the sect to help Yan Chuan fight for Worry-Free City. After Worry-Free City had fallen into Yan Chuan's hands, Feng Tairan had given up most of the benefits to Yan Chuan. Although he did not recognize him as an elder, Yan Chuan had already treated him as an old friend. "Who is it? Who killed Feng Tairan?" Yan Chuan said coldly. "I don't know, no one knows," Zhu Jiansheng cried. Yan Chuan's face darkened. Before the old sect leader died, he seemed to have a premonition and passed the position to my master, Mo Wu Hui, Zhu Jiansheng said. Mo Wu Hui, the Earth Peak Lord of the Day sect, had always been in love with Yan Chuan's father, Yan Tao. Unfortunately, Yan Tao had married Kong Susu back then. Even after his death, Mo Wu Hui would often visit Yan Tao's grave and sit there in a daze. Passed it on to Mo Wu Hui? Yan Chuan frowned. He immediately felt the complexity of the situation. Something big might have happened in Day sect. Master knows that you're in Julu City, so he asked me to find you immediately and ask you to return as soon as possible. Master said that it's urgent, very urgent. Zhu Jiansheng said with a complicated expression. Qinglong, pack up everything. We'll set off in 2 incense sticks time. Return to Day sect. Yan Chuan immediately called out to Qinglong, yes. 4 months later. Carefree City? A branch of the demon-controlling sect. King Yimu was talking to a group of disciples. Master, you can't. The bald Lu Gang immediately cried out. King Yimu frowned as he looked at Lu Gang. Even though Lu Gang was the youngest disciple he had taken in from the Geomancy formation, he had a vicious temperament. His foresight was also unique compared to many others. Previously, it was Lu Gang who had helped him a lot in the fight for Worry-Free City. Master, is our demon-controlling sect really going to betray the Day sect? Lu Gang asked with an ugly expression. Betray? What betray? Is our demon-controlling sect a vassal of the Day sect? King Yimu's eldest disciple, Dan Qingzi, shouted. Lu Gang glanced at Dan Qingzi, frowned, and ignored him. Chapter 589. Master, you should still remember the battle in Worry-Free City. In that battle, the Triyu sect was completely wiped out. It's not like Master didn't see Yan Chuan's methods. Now, if Yan Chuan returns, it will be the day our demon-controlling sect is destroyed. Lu Gang said anxiously. Nonsense. What can Yan Chuan do by himself? Dan Qingzi shouted. Lu Gang glared at him. Short-sighted. What did you say? Dan Qingzi said with an ugly expression. I respect you as the eldest senior brother, which is why I called you senior brother. But did you cultivate until you became stupid? You want to bring the demon-controlling sect to eternal damnation? Lu Gang shouted coldly. Eternal damnation? You're the one who wants to bring the demon-controlling sect to eternal damnation. 5 inferior sects and nearly 20 immortal realm experts have come to Carefree City. If it weren't for Hua Guang's 100,000 mercenaries, they would have killed Hua Guang long ago. Dan Qingzi shouted coldly. Is it just Hua Guang's 100,000 mercenaries? They can't do anything to Hua Guang. Lu Gang argued. They can't do anything to Hua Guang? He's only in the Qi realm. Do you think he's Yan Chuan? Dan Qingzi said coldly. King Yimu, who was standing to the side, said in a deep voice, that's not all. This time, 5 inferior sects and lower void stage experts have come. They haven't made a move on Hua Guang because they are waiting for news from the Great River sect. Lower void realm? The disciples exclaimed. Did you hear that? Fighting against the 5 great sects is suicide. The demon-controlling sect can only go with the flow. Dan Qingzi said proudly. Short-sighted. Lu Gang said again. Dan Qingzi looked at Lu Gang angrily. King Yimu also looked at Lu Gang with a frown. He also believed that Hua Guang wouldn't be able to stop the 5 great sections. Master, Hua Guang and Lu Jin are currently trapped in the City Lord's palace. This is the best opportunity. We should help Hua Guang, not help the 5 sects to divide the benefits that belong to us. Lu Gang said again. King Yimu asked in a deep voice. The 5 great sects want to enter the Worry-Free City. Once they succeed, our demon-controlling sect's interests will be suppressed, and we might even be driven out of the city. In fact, if they were even a little more ruthless, they would even uproot my demon control sect. Lu Gang said. King Ye's eyelids twitched as he said with a frown, but my demon-controlling sect is no match for the 5 great sects. Master, in fact, we only need to persevere for a short period of time. Master, think about Yan Chuan. What is Yan Chuan's cultivation level? Lu Gang advised. Essence state? He's only in the 9th stage of the essence state. King Yi Mu recalled. That's right. He was able to uproot the Triyu sect, Life League, and the other 4 great sects when he was only in the essence state. Now that a few years have passed, is Yan Chuan still in the essence state? At this moment, if our Imperial Demon sect were to add insult to injury, would Yan Chuan seek revenge on our Imperial Demon sect when he returns? Will our demon-controlling sect be able to withstand Yan Chuan's revenge? Lu Gang asked in a deep voice. King Yi Mu's face suddenly darkened when he thought of Yan Chuan. In King Yi Mu's heart, Yan Chuan was a perverted monster. His strength and cultivation were not proportional at all. If he came back and took revenge on the demon-controlling sect, the consequences would be unimaginable. Lu Gang took a deep breath and said, Master, this disciple will say something disrespectful. We are no match for Yan Chuan. Yan Chuan is the strongest person I've ever met, not in terms of cultivation but in terms of methods. This disciple has studied politics in the mortal world, and this disciple cannot fathom Yan Chuan's politics. Once he comes back, the world will be turned upside down. Chapter 590. What are you talking about? How many years has it been? So what if he has reached the Qi realm? The 5 sects are waiting for him. If a lower ethereal realm expert makes a move, he'll be walking right into their trap. Dan Qingzi shouted. Ha ha ha, do you think Yan Chuan is the same as you? You think he's still the same after 4 years? Ethereal realm? There was an ethereal realm expert here 4 years ago, but he was still killed by Yan Chuan. Lu Gang mocked. King Ye's eyelids twitched violently. Master, if you can't make up your mind, then it's best if you don't interfere. That way the demon-controlling sect won't benefit much, but at least we won't lose too much. Lu Gang advised. Master, we can't. The 5 sects are here. If we don't participate, the benefits of Julu City will be taken away by them. Dan Qingzi shouted. King Yi pondered for a while, then shook his head and said, Listen to Lu Gang. We won't help anyone. Master is wise. Lu Gang sighed. Master. Dan Qingzi was anxious. All right, let's go. King Yi sighed. Yes. Everyone left the hall. After leaving the hall, the disciples split into 2 groups. One group followed Dan Qingzi because he was the eldest senior brother, while the other followed Lu Gang because they believed in Lu Gang's ability. After separating, Dan Qingzi said with a gloomy expression, Junior brothers, although Master doesn't care, we can't let it go. If we don't participate, the demon-controlling sect will lose its foothold in Carefree City. We'll listen to eldest senior brother. On the other side, Lu Gang's expression was gloomy as he looked at the people who followed him. Thank you for your trust, senior brothers. This might be our only chance. Lu Gang said in a deep voice. We're willing to listen to your opinion. The senior brothers said. Why are the 5 sects here? They're far away from Carefree City. Why are they here? Are they targeting Yan Chuan? Huoguang? The Day sect? There's only one reason for them to be so anxious. Lu Gang said in a deep voice. This means that Yan Chuan, Huoguang, and the Day sect are able to threaten them. Although I don't see anything threatening them right now, but with such a grand occasion, Yan Chuan and the Day sect must have a hidden and powerful side. Not only can we not sit by and do nothing, we have to help Huoguang. Adding flowers to embroidery is easy, but providing help in times of need is precious. Moreover, if we really ignore them and don't help Huoguang, it will also be a betrayal of the alliance. When Yan Chuan returns, our demon-controlling sect may face another calamity. Moreover, even if we don't care if the 5 great sects snatch Carefree City, will they share the benefits with our demon-controlling sect? Lu Gang said in a low voice. Junior brother is wise. The senior brothers nodded in agreement. Master has his own considerations, but we have to do something. Even if something happens, we have to keep Master out of it. Keeping the demon-controlling sect out of it is our own decision. If my guess is correct, the demon-controlling sect will definitely rise to power. Lu Gang said solemnly. We'll listen to you. The senior brothers replied instantly. Carefree City, on the floating island of the City Lord. King of Hell's Palace. Outside King of Hell's Palace, Lu Jin stood on the floating island with a horsetail whisk in her hand. Overlooking the entire Carefree City, her face was incomparably gloomy. Outside King of Hell's Palace, there were 50 men in armor standing. Each of them had a cold and arrogant expression, and killing intent radiated in all directions. 50 men in armor, each holding a spear or a longbow, quietly stood guard outside the main hall. Lu Jin slowly walked back. Eunuch Lu. One of the men in armor greeted respectfully. Generals, thank you for your hard work. Lu Jin said with a smile. It's not hard at all. As long as we don't leave the floating island, those Immortal Realm experts won't make things difficult for us. We 50 Chi Realm experts only need to protect King of Hell's palace. The man in armor smiled bitterly. It will pass. Lu Jin comforted him with a smile. Eunuch Lu, don't worry. Atainyo only admire Master No and my king. I believe that Master will be able to resolve this crisis. We have all experienced Master's strength. Immortal Realm? Master has the will of the stars, he may not lose. We will always be loyal to Master and our king. The man in armor said. Looking at King of Hell's palace, Lu Jin nodded and said, the crisis will pass and our king will return. Those rascals will eventually be trampled under your feet. Now that we are trapped here, we just have to wait for Huo Guang to come out of seclusion. Then we will slaughter our way out, and gather the army to capture those rascals in one fell swoop. Yes. The group of Qi realm experts replied in unison. The First Legion had become the spiritual pillar of the army. Strict discipline and a strong sense of military awareness. They were no longer the disorganized army of mercenaries. Chapter 591. After 4 months, Yen Chuan had finally returned from Julu City. He landed on the peak of a mountain. There were 4 people and 1 cat in total. Yen Chuan, Yifeng, Qinglong, Zhujiansheng and Miao. Qinglong, bring Yifeng to Carefree City. Be careful of Yifeng's safety. Yen Chuan said in a deep voice. Rest assured, young master. Qinglong nodded solemnly. Carefree City? Zhujiansheng asked doubtfully. If Day sect is in trouble, Carefree City must be in trouble too. Yen Chuan shook his head. Let's go. Yen Chuan said. As he spoke, Yen Chuan brought Zhujiansheng and shot towards Day sect. Qinglong brought Yifeng and flew towards Carefree City. Day sect. Black Peak Hall. 3 figures stood in the hall. Black Peak's peak master Feng Tianyu, Jiang Nan and a black-robed man. Feng Tianyu, Feng Tyran's son, Dubai. Jiang Nan was the 3rd-generation senior. When Yen Chuan entered Day sect, he was facing his 2nd heavenly tribulation. He was battered and exhausted by the heavenly tribulation of 3,000 heavenly peak soldiers. Peak master, it's time? Jiang Nan said solemnly. Feng Tianyu frowned. That's right, Feng Tianyu. If it's yours, it should be held in your hands. Half of the Day sect's disciples are supporting you. Your father is Feng Tyran. It's only right for you to inherit the Day sect. The black-robed man said in a deep voice. Feng Tianyu looked at the black-robed man with a complicated expression. Peak master, if we don't go now, when will we? Jiang Nan asked anxiously. Feng Tianyu looked at Jiang Nan with disgust in his eyes. I'm worried that Mo Wu Hui won't give up so easily. Feng Tianyu frowned. Ha, don't worry. Mo Wu Hui is just an arrow at the end of its flight. I guarantee that when you go, you will definitely be able to take back the sect leader position that belongs to you. The black-robed man laughed in a deep voice. That's right, Peak Lord. The Great Winged Heaven School has sent a total of 10 experts here. 5 of them are heading to the Worry-Free City, while the other 5 are here to assist Peak Lord. It'll be a piece of cake for you to obtain the sect lord's position. Jiang Nan urged. That's right, Feng Tianyu. You can't turn back now. If you want to do something, then do it thoroughly. The black-robed man said coldly. Good. Since it has come to this, I might as well take the position of sect master. Jiang Nan, go and inform the other disciples. We will head to the Great River Hall and force him to abdicate. Feng Tianyu said in a deep voice. Yes. Jiang Nan nodded and left the hall. The Great River Hall, the main peak of Day sect. Inside the Great River Hall there were 3 figures standing there. The pale-faced Mo Wu Hui. There were also 2 white-haired and white-browed elders. Mo Wu Hui bowed solemnly to the 2 elders. Elders, I shouldn't have disturbed you. However, I have no choice. The Day sect is about to be destroyed. Wu Hui has disturbed you. Mo Wu Hui said bitterly. Mo Wu Hui, let me take a look at your injuries. One of the elders stepped forward. Mo Wu Hui took a step back and shook his head in refusal. Elders, there's no need to help me check. I know my own body best. Let's deal with the crisis at hand. The 2 elders nodded and frowned deeply. Feng Tyran, how did he die? One of the elders asked in a deep voice. Mo Wu Hui revealed a bitter smile and shook his head. I'm not sure. However, the old sect leader seemed to have sensed something, so he let me take over the sect leader position in advance. You're not sure? One of the elders frowned. Chapter 592. The old sect leader emphasized that we cannot let his son, Feng Tianyu, take over the position of sect leader. However, Feng Tianyu has gathered half of the first-generation disciples to support him. They are ready to force me to abdicate. Mo Wuhui frowned. Feng Tianyu? That brat is a bastard. Although we have ignored the matters of the Dai sect for many years, I believe in Feng Tiran. Since he supports you, we will also support you. An elder said in a deep voice. That's right. With the two of us here, Feng Tianyu won't be able to cause much trouble. Another elder said in a deep voice. Mo Wuhui smiled bitterly and shook his head. Elders, you may not know, but the situation in the Dai sect is extremely complicated now. Not only are there conflicts between the two sects, but there are also other sects outside. Even with the help of the two elders, it will be difficult to stop them. Outer sect? What? How is that possible? An elder said in a deep voice. So what if they are outer sect? We have reached the lower emptiness realm not long ago. We will do everything for you. Mo Wuhui smiled bitterly and shook his head. No, the two elders, the enemy is powerful. There might be an emptiness realm expert. What? The two elders stared in surprise. The old sect leader is already at the peak of the god realm. Who can kill him secretly? Mo Wuhui frowned. The two elders were silent for a while. I don't expect the two of you to get rid of the enemy. I only ask the two of you to buy me some time. Mo Wuhui said solemnly. The two elders frowned. Finally they nodded and said, okay. Stop. Without the sect leader's permission, no one is allowed to come near. Suddenly, a loud noise came from outside the hall. Elders, please step back. Mo Wuhui said solemnly. The two elders looked at each other and finally nodded. The moment the two elders entered the side hall. Bang. The door of the main hall opened with a loud bang. Mo Wuhui swung his white Taoist robe and looked coldly outside the main hall. Suddenly, a large number of Dai sect disciples rushed into the main hall. They were obviously divided into two groups. One group had 40 people. The Peak Master of Yellow Peak, Gao Bufan, the Seven Swordsmen, Duan Sanshu and Feng Tiran's grandson, Feng Xiao. The other side was led by Feng Tianyu. He led 5 immortal state warriors of the Dai sect, 40 Qi state warriors, and 20 black-robed men into the room. Feng Tianyu and Mo Wuhui looked at each other coldly. Mo Wuhui, my father had instructed me to take over the position of sect master. I don't know how you tricked my father into giving you the Tiansu, but if you hand it over now, I will let you continue to be the Earth Peak's peak lord. Feng Tianyu said in a low voice. Mo Wuhui's face was gloomy as he looked coldly at Feng Tianyu. Father, how did you become like this? A voice came from behind Mo Wuhui. It was Feng Tianyu's son, Feng Xiao. Feng Xiao, the grandson of Feng Tiran, used to be a famous playboy of the Dai sect. After being taught a few lessons by Yan Chuan, his temperament matured and he had been working hard on his cultivation. At this moment, Feng Tianyu was forcing the abdication, and Feng Xiao was actually standing on the opposite side of Feng Tianyu. Unfilial son, what are you doing? Feng Tianyu's face darkened. Feng Xiao shook his head and said with a sad face, Father, the position of sect master was passed to martial uncle Mo by grandfather. Many people saw it at that time and I was also by your side. Why did you lie? Unfilial son, you have no right to speak here. Feng Tianyu glared at him and scolded. Yes, junior brother. At this time you are not helping your father but helping an outsider? Jiang Nan said indifferently. Chapter 593. Feng Xiao glared at Jiang Nan and said, Shut up, Jiang Nan. I was wrong about you. You are a villain. Jiang Nan's eyes turned cold. Turning around, Feng Xiao looked at Feng Tianyu and said, Father, you have already lost an arm. What's the point of fighting for the position of sect leader? The Dai sect was passed down to martial uncle Mo by grandpa. Do you want to disturb the peace of the Dai sect by allying with outsiders? Father, stop. Feng Xiao said sadly. Slap. Feng Tianyu slapped Feng Xiao's face. You have no right to talk about my matters. Go home. Feng Tianyu said coldly. Feng Xiao covered his mouth and tears rolled down his face. Father, you have never hit me. You have never hit me. You hit me? Mother, grandmother, can your spirits in heaven see this? Father has changed. Father hit me. Father disobeyed grandpa. Seeing his son's sadness, Feng Tianyu's eyes flashed with pity, but he still looked at Feng Xiao coldly. Go home. Feng Tianyu said coldly. No, I will not go home. Father, I don't know why you have become like this, but this is grandpa's decision. Also, I know that the men in black behind you are not good people. I know that you were forced. I will not agree to it. I will not go back. Feng Xiao said stubbornly. Feng Qianyu's face darkened. Feng Qianyu suddenly moved. Before Feng Xiao could react, he slapped the back of Feng Xiao's head. Feng Xiao's body went soft and he fainted. Feng Qianyu. Mo Wu Hui glared. Feng Xiao is my son. I am in charge of my son. Do you want to interfere? Feng Qianyu said coldly. Send my son back. Feng Qianyu said to a Qi Jing cultivator. Yes. Feng Xiao was quickly taken away. After Feng Xiao was taken away, Feng Qianyu regained his momentum and looked coldly at Mo Wu Hui. Mo Wu Hui, hand over the Tiansu. It should not be yours. Feng Qianyu said seriously. Yes, Mo Wu Hui. The Tiansu should be inherited by Feng Qianyu. You must return it to Feng Qianyu. You bewitched Feng Tairan and made him give you the Tiansu. Aren't you going to return it to Feng Qianyu? The 5 immortal state warriors who supported Feng Qianyu said one after another. Scoundrel, Feng Tairan personally seduced me. I saw it with my own eyes. How can I be bewitched? Duan Sanshu said in a deep voice. Although you are disciples of the first generation, you have no right to participate in the government affairs of the Dai sect. Do you have the right to speak? Gao Bufan said coldly. Mo Wu Hui coldly looked at the group of people before finally looking at the 20 black-robed figures. He then looked at Feng Qianyu. Feng Qianyu looked at Mo Wu Hui with a complicated expression. His eyes seemed to be telling Mo Wu Hui to hand over the Tiansu to him first and talk about the rest later. Mo Wu Hui could see the look in Feng Qianyu's eyes. He could also feel that Feng Qianyu might have some hidden troubles. However, Mo Wu Hui still shook his head. Tiansu, I will not hand it over to you. Never. Bastard. Mo Wu Hui, do you really want to cause internal strife in my Dai sect? Mo Wu Hui, you are not qualified to be the sect leader. Feng Qianyu, you deceived your master and destroyed your ancestors. How can you face your father? In the Dai hall there was a lot of noise. Swords were drawn and bows were bent. It was as if a big battle would break out at any time. Almost all the disciples of the Dai sect had gathered at the foot of the main peak. The disciples of both sides were ready to fight. A civil war was imminent. At the entrance of the Dai sect, it was empty. The breeze rolled up the smoke and dust in the surroundings. It looked extremely desolate and cold. Suddenly Yan Chuan and Zhu Jiansheng landed in front of the entrance. Standing at the entrance, the two looked around the Dai sect. The disciples who used to go in and out were gone. The disciples who used to fly around were also gone. Looking at the interior of the Dai sect from the entrance, it was quiet and deserted. Martial uncle? Zhu Jiansheng's face darkened. Let's go back. Yan Chuan took a deep breath and stepped into the Dai sect. Chapter 594. Worry-Free City. On the floating island of the City Lord Mansion, Lu Jin stood at the edge of the floating island and looked around coldly. Eunuch Lu, why don't we charge again? An armored general stepped forward. Lu Jin shook her head. No need. Huo Guang is already prepared. As long as there are no orders for a long time, the army will immediately rush back from all directions. You just need to wait. The armored general nodded. However, the 3,000 guards in the city did not come to defend. It seems that the 3,000 guards in the city have been subdued. It seems that there are many people from the 5 sections. Lu Jin frowned. How can this be? The 3,000 guards are well trained. How can they all be subdued? Even if they escape, this is our home ground. How can they be caught by the 5 sects? The armored general frowned. There is only one possibility. Lu Jin's eyes flashed with a trace of coldness. Eunuch Lu, are you saying that the Imperial Demon Sect betrayed us? The armored general was shocked. Not only the Imperial Demon Sect but also the Dai sect. Lu Jin's tone was gloomy. Dai sect? How is that possible? The armored general was shocked. Nothing is impossible. Some time ago the disciples of the Dai sect were rotated. At that time I was still wondering why they were all replaced by disciples of the Black Peak. If the Dai sect and the Imperial Demon Sect did not betray us, how can the 3,000 guards' whereabouts be exposed? Lu Jin's eyes were gloomy. My king is right. There can only be one government in a city. If several forces control a city, something will happen sooner or later. If this battle is over, the forces of the Dai sect and the Imperial Demon Sect must be wiped out. Lu Jin flung her horsetail whisk and said coldly. Then Eunuch Lu, what do you plan to do now? The armored general was worried. We can't go out now. As long as we guard Huo Guang and wait for him to break through, we can go out. Outside, the army of 100,000 will be back soon. Don't worry, everything will pass. Anyone who schemed against us will have to pay a heavy price. Lu Jin said coldly. Yes. Lu Jin looked down at the surroundings. Not far below the floating island in a courtyard there was also a group of people looking up at the sky. The 20 people were all dressed in luxurious robes. They coldly glanced at the floating island and then walked towards a side hall. As for the main palace, it was still closed. In the side hall, 20 immortal state warriors and a bunch of chi state warriors? It's really funny. A man laughed bitterly. What's so funny? Isn't our sect's elder, a lower void realm expert, also sitting in the main hall? Another man said in a deep voice. Sect Master Moe, you're right, but this matter is still a little strange. The man smiled bitterly. I know what you are thinking. Our 5 sects brought 8,000 disciples into worry-free city. Logically speaking, we should have been able to clean up everything and take control of the city swiftly. However, we didn't do so. Instead, we cooperated with the Day sect and the Imperial Demon sect? Sect Master Moe laughed. Yeah, then what does Huoguang have? Weren't the 3,000 guards all captured and imprisoned by us? Wouldn't it be fine if we captured Huoguang? Why did we have to do so much? The man complained. This is an order from the Great Winged Heaven School. It seems that someone is interested in the army of 100,000. Sect Master Moe shook his head. Interested in the army of 100,000? That's right. The Great Winged Heaven School wants to subdue the army of 100,000. Moe nodded. Chapter 595. Oh, who wants her? Is it Shinkoin Kuroha? Everyone looked at Sect Master Moe curiously. Sect Master Moe shook his head and smiled wryly. He took a deep breath and said, Everyone, do you remember the scene when we surrounded the Day sect more than 10 years ago? Then all the immortal state warriors narrowed their eyes. Sect Master Moe, are you talking about Emperor Moku from the west? An immortal state warrior raised his eyebrows. Speaking of Emperor Moku, all the immortal state warriors tensed up. Back then, Emperor Moku came from the west to the east and supported Shinkoin Kuroha to become the sect master of the Great Winged Heaven School. Then he used the Great Winged Heaven School to mobilize 100 sects to surround the Day sect and finally killed Yen Tao and his wife. His strength and means shocked all the immortal state warriors. It's the messenger of Emperor Moku. I also heard from the elders that the messenger is called Great Wisdom Bodhisattva, Moe whispered. Bodhisattva? A bodhisattva's karmic rank is equal to a perfected cultivator. Emperor Moku sent a bodhisattva? The immortal state warriors frowned. We'll do as you say. Don't complain anymore. Moe said in a deep voice. The immortal state warriors nodded. While the immortal state warriors were talking, a disciple walked into the hall. Uncles, Dan Qingzi of the demon-controlling sect wants to see you. Let him in. Moe was surprised. In a secluded valley in Carefree City, there were many houses in the valley. Lu Gang touched his bald head and looked at the 50 men and women tied up in the yard. A group of disciples of the demon-controlling sect stood behind Lu Gang. Are you Lu Gang from the demon-controlling sect? What do you want? A man who was tied up yelled. My father is Moe. If you dare to catch me, my father will kill your whole family. Another man who was tied up yelled. The 50 men and women who were tied up looked at Lu Gang in horror. Junior Marshal Brother Lu Gang, these people are all close relatives of Divine Realm experts from the 5 great sects. We've caught them all. A disciple of the demon-controlling sect said with a smile. Lu Gang looked at the people who were tied up and nodded. Then he turned to look at the group of senior brothers. Senior brothers, you've done a great job. Did the 5 great sects really think that it would be easy this time? He actually brought his family members along? Lu Gang laughed. Close to 8,000 people from the 5 sects entered the city, and the guards of the worry-free city were all subdued. That was why we were able to succeed so easily. A disciple from the demon-controlling sect said with a smile. Thank you for your hard work, senior brothers. Lu Gang said solemnly. We believe in junior brother. Everyone nodded. If that's the case, I would like to ask senior brothers to agree to a presumptuous request of mine. Lu Gang suddenly bowed and said solemnly. Junior brother, what are you doing? Why do you need to salute? All the senior brothers stepped forward. Junior brother, just say it. Lu Gang looked at the group of senior brothers and said solemnly, Senior brothers, it's not that I, Lu Gang, am a despicable person, but this matter is of great importance and our lives are at stake. We have no choice but to be cautious. From now on, no one is allowed to leave this place, alright? Everyone's eyebrows rose. Does junior brother not trust us? A disciple from the demon-controlling sect asked solemnly. Lu Gang shook his head. If I didn't trust senior brother, I wouldn't have asked for senior brother's help. However, this matter concerns our lives, we have to be cautious. Senior brother, please forgive us. Chapter 596. As Lu Gang spoke, he bowed once more. Everyone looked at Lu Gang, and in the end, they all nodded with complicated expressions. Okay, since we promised junior brother, we'll listen to you. Many thanks, senior brother. As they waited, a large number of soldiers gathered outside the 4 gates of Carefree City. At the southern gate, 10,000 travel-worn soldiers carried a large number of demonic beasts on their shoulders. It was clear that they had obtained a bountiful harvest from this hunt. Open the gates, the leading general shouted. Dan Qingzi stood on the city gate with his hands behind his back, looking at the 10,000 soldiers clamoring outside. General Zhang, please wait outside the city for several days. Dan Qingzi called out. General Zhang looked at the city gate tower and narrowed his eyes. Wait, where's old Ma? Why is it you, a pretty boy? General Zhang's expression changed. Old Ma is resting for several days. I'll guard the city for him, Dan Qingzi said with a smile. General Zhang's expression changed. Get into formation and prepare for battle. General Zhang shouted. Boom. The soldiers were well trained. They quickly threw away the demonic beasts on their shoulders and aimed their bows at the city wall. Dan Qingzi opened the city gate. General Zhang roared. General Zhang, what are you doing? What's the harm in waiting for a few days? Dan Qingzi said with a frown. Bastard, I knew something was wrong when I didn't receive any news from my lord for several days, so I hurried back. Sure enough, something has happened in Carefree City. Fire. General Zhang roared. Boom. 10,000 sun-shooting arrows shot toward the city gate tower. Dan Qingzi's expression changed as he retreated. Bang. 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 Layers of barriers appeared outside the city wall, blocking the arrow rain. Carefree City's formation? You actually activated Carefree City's formation? What happened to my lord? General Zhang roared. Dan Qingzi was embarrassed by his loss of composure. He flung his sleeve and said coldly, once Carefree City's formation is activated, no one can enter or leave. If you want to wait a few more days, then wait a few more days. Hua Guang isn't dead yet. Bastard Demon Controlling Sect Master. Bastard Demon Controlling Sect Master. General Zhang roared. Attack the city? General Zhang roared. Rumble. Rumbles came from all directions outside Carefree City. More and more troops rushed back from all directions. However, it was a pity that the Worry-Free City's formation was too sturdy and they couldn't break through it in a short period of time. 2 days later, in front of the Carefree City Lord Manor. In the small courtyard. Seniors, the army of 100,000 has been blocked outside. Please hurry up and deal with Hua Guang. Dan Qingzi said worriedly. Dan Qingzi? You're doing well. Keep blocking. After a long time they will rest. Sect leader Moe said with a smile. Dan Qingzi nodded. After seeing Dan Qingzi off, Moe frowned. Sect leader Moe, why are we waiting for news from the Day sect? The Day sect's plan is actually for Yan Xuan. If Yan Xuan doesn't die, Hua Guang won't surrender. Therefore we can only wait for the Day sect to succeed in their plan, lure Yan Xuan back and kill Yan Xuan. Only then can we proceed smoothly. Let's wait patiently. Moe said in a low voice. Lure? Once Feng Tianyu becomes the sect leader, he can use Tiansu at the cost of damaging his own Tiansu, to use the pool of merit to send a message to Yan Xuan. Yan Xuan will definitely rush back to the Day sect. There he will be surrounded. Once Yan Xuan dies, Hua Guang will be able to subdue him. Moe said in a low voice. Kill Yan Xuan? That's right. The Great Winged Heaven School gave us the mission to destroy the Day sect, eliminate Yan Xuan, and subdue Hua Guang's army of 100,000. Sect leader Moe said in a low voice. Then we still have to wait for a while? Yes, but don't worry. Hua Guang is only in the Qi realm. Moe said in a low voice. Just as Moe was about to win, a large number of dark clouds suddenly appeared in the sky above Carefree City. Rumble. Black clouds appeared out of nowhere, and countless bolts of lightning suddenly flashed. Heavenly tribulation? 39 heavenly tribulations? Moe exclaimed in shock. On the floating island of the city lord's residence in Carefree City. He broke through. Guang finally broke through. Ah! Lu Jin shouted excitedly. Chapter 597. Carefree City? On the floating island where the city lord's mansion was located. Kaboom! The king of Hell's palace rumbled as a powerful energy shot up into the sky. The eyes of the 50 Qi Jing warriors brightened as they heard the news. Kaboom! Dark clouds gathered in the sky as the heavenly tribulation clouds rolled toward them. 39 heavenly tribulations. Guang has reached the heavenly tribulation. Lu Jin shouted excitedly. The 50 Qi state overlords were also excited. Under the floating island, 20 immortal state warriors looked at the sky coldly. All of them had passed the 39 heavenly tribulations, so they knew what it meant. After passing the heavenly tribulation, one would reach the immortal state. It's Guang. An immortal state warrior said with a frown. No wonder we haven't seen Guang these days. He was in seclusion to break through. Another immortal state warrior said with a frown. Sect Master Moe, what should we do now? The immortal state warriors looked to Moe. Moe narrowed his eyes and stared at the dark clouds in the sky. Don't worry, he is just an immortal state warrior. Even if Guang had passed the heavenly tribulation, he would only be a stage 1 immortal state warrior. Besides, our elders are here. Guang won't be able to do anything. Moe shook his head and said. While the immortal state warriors were talking, a man in a white robe flew into the sky with a silver spear in his hand. He stood in the air and looked at the heavenly tribulation clouds. It was Guang. His long hair fluttered in the wind as he looked up at the sky with an unyielding face. Roar! Guang roared at the sky, and dozens of lightning bolts struck down at Guang. Boom! Guang was immersed in the lightning. Guang didn't use his dermic powers to block the lightning bolts. Instead, the lightning bolts surrounded Guang and destroyed his clothes. At the same time, it tempered Guang's body. Rumble! Guang felt as if his entire body was soaked in a lightning battery. He crazily tempered his body. What? He's crazy. A deity realm expert exclaimed. He's using his physical body in the first wave of heavenly lightning. How is this possible? The group of immortal state warriors looked at the sky in surprise. Generally speaking, cultivators would use magic treasures and weapons to resist the heavenly tribulation. Only when they reached the last bolt or two would they dare to draw it into their bodies to temper their bodies. This was because, although lightning tempering the body was precious, its destructive power was also incomparably shocking. The flesh body could not withstand too much lightning. But Guang? Had he been resisting with his physical body from the very beginning? For some reason, the 20 gods suddenly felt uneasy. Far away in the city, in a valley, Lu Gang looked up at the tribulation clouds. Junior brother, this Guang is really fierce. A demon-controlling sect disciple exclaimed in surprise. If he wasn't fierce, how could he have caught the eye of Yen Chuan and been appointed as the First Legion's commander? Lu Gang narrowed his eyes. The First Legion's commander? I know it by accident. If there is a first, there will be a second, third, fourth. Yen Chuan is ambitious. Only by following such a person can I show my brilliance. Lu Gang's eyes flashed with a hint of eagerness. What? The demon-controlling sect disciple was puzzled. Lu Gang shook his head and said, Senior brothers, maybe it's up to us now. You must do as I say. Junior brother, what's your plan? The senior brothers were puzzled. Lu Gang looked at the crowd and took a deep breath. Everyone, we've already offended these 50 people. Even if we turn back now, it's too late. Why don't we give up on resisting the 5 major sects and wait for the 5 major sects to slaughter us? Or follow me and do something big. Chapter 598. The senior brothers' faces darkened, but they eventually nodded and said, We'll listen to you. Lu Gang looked at the crowd again and said, Perhaps my decision will go against Master's wishes. Are you still willing to help me? Go against King Ye's wishes? Everyone's faces darkened. Clearly they didn't expect this to happen. We'll listen to you. Everyone said at the same time. All right. Lu Gang nodded. He turned around and looked at Guang, who was in the middle of his tribulation. Outside the city, the 100,000 soldiers suddenly stopped attacking the city. Some of the Qi Jing experts slowly floated up and looked at the tribulation clouds in the sky. They immediately saw Guang floating in the sky. It's our Lord's tribulation. The Qi Jing expert immediately shouted. My Lord. The 100,000 soldiers were delighted. Attack the city? Continue attacking the city? Protect our Lord? Suddenly, A loud shout came from outside the city. Yes. Rumble. Powerful rumbling sounds continuously battered the city gates. Dan Qingzi, who had rushed back from the city, had an ugly expression on his face. Outside the Imperial Monster Palace, King Yi frowned and looked at the city lord's floating island. Looking at the tribulation in the distance, King Yi frowned deeply and felt a sense of unease. The lightning madly tempered Huoguang's body. Huoguang's body seemed to be in great pain, but Huoguang still remembered Yan Chuan's words. Although the tribulation was a disaster, it was also a blessing. After enduring the pain, there would be great rewards. Rumble. Round after round of lightning entered Huoguang's body. In the blink of an eye, more than 20 rounds of lightning had passed. The immortal state experts' faces darkened. Sect leader Moe, something's wrong. Huoguang is enduring so many lightning strikes. Once he becomes an immortal state expert, he will be extraordinary. An immortal state expert said worriedly. Yeah, I'm worried that we won't be able to stop him. Another person said worriedly. Sect leader Moe, shall I go and take a look? A red-haired immortal state expert narrowed his eyes and said. Moe nodded. At this moment, Moe also felt a sense of unease. An immortal realm expert soared into the sky. But as soon as he landed on the floating island, release the arrows. Lu Jin's voice suddenly rang out. Boom. 50 Qi Jing generals simultaneously released their arrows. Bam, 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 bam. The power of the shooting sun arrows suddenly erupted. It was as if 50 shooting stars had suddenly rushed over. Rumble. The immortal realm expert's expression changed as he quickly blocked the shooting sun arrows. Release the arrows. Lu Jin continued to shout. Bang 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 bang. The shooting sun arrows quickly suppressed the God Realm warrior, preventing him from going up to the sky to disturb Huoguang. The faces of the immortal state warriors below changed. Let's go. Moe shouted. Boom. A group of divine realm warriors soared into the sky together. At this moment, Huoguang seemed to have sensed the threat coming from below. He took a step forward and soared into the sky. What are you doing? Is Huoguang crazy? Someone shouted again. He wants to charge into the tribulation clouds? Is he crazy? A group of immortal state warriors exclaimed. Stop him. Moe shouted. Moe felt more and more uneasy. He didn't know what was going on, but at this moment he instinctively wanted to stop Huoguang. However, Huoguang rushed into the tribulation clouds in the blink of an eye. Rumble. The tribulation clouds of the 39 heavenly tribulations rolled. 20 immortal state warriors soared into the sky with pale faces, but they didn't dare to step into the clouds. Huoguang's painful cry came from inside the tribulation clouds. Chapter 599. Howl Army Destroyer. Following an explosive roar from within the tribulation cloud, an enormous aura suddenly rushed out. In the distant sky, a beam of light suddenly shot down. It was only daytime, but the stars were still in their original positions, covered by the sun. The star will of the Army Destroyer star suddenly poured into the tribulation cloud. Boom. The tribulation cloud of the 39 heavenly tribulations suddenly twisted violently. With a loud bang, the 39 heavenly tribulations suddenly exploded. Hong. The huge 39 heavenly tribulations exploded, but at the center of the explosion, a terrifying aura pressed down. The 20 divine realm warriors' faces changed. How could it be? Someone exclaimed. After the explosion, the phantom of a peerless general seemed to condense in the void. The peerless general held a long spear in his hand. His eyes were wide open and a terrifying will made everyone's heart tremble. The Army Destroyer will. In the phantom of the peerless general, Huoguang was holding a long spear and surrounded by the Army Destroyer will. In an instant, Huoguang's battle intent soared to the sky. A fierce aura suddenly burst out and suppressed the group of divine realm warriors. Impossible. He has just finished the 39 heavenly tribulations and is at LV1 of the divine realm. How could his aura be so strong? A divine realm warrior exclaimed. Huoguang's clothes were torn by the explosion. Huoguang grabbed the spear with one hand and tore it in front of his chest with the other hand. Whoosh! The torn clothes were torn away, and the bare-chested Qin Haodong held the spear and looked at the crowd. You're courting death. Huoguang waved his long spear and a powerful spear force rushed to the 20 divine realm warriors. One of the divine realm warriors raised his sword and blocked it. Boom! The sword in the divine realm warrior's hand suddenly exploded, and the divine realm warrior spat out a mouthful of blood. Puff. With the army destroyer will, Huoguang's strength at the moment was more than LV1 of the Divine Realm warrior. Let's go together and take down Huoguang. Moe exclaimed. Humph, how dare you trap me? Huoguang stared at him and the long spear suddenly burst out billions of silver light. Rumble. 1 against 20. Huoguang's might was boundless. Boom, boom, boom. As the spears collided again and again, the 20 Divine Realm warriors all spat out blood. 1 against 20. Huoguang suppressed all of them. The star intent was extremely domineering. As the long spear danced, a terrifying destructive force rushed towards the Immortal State warriors. Poof. 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 The sound of vomiting blood could be heard continuously. Huoguang was simply too ferocious. They were all in the Divine Realm, but at this moment Huoguang was simply suppressing them one-sidedly. Impossible. Impossible. Let's work together to stop Huoguang. Ah. The battle in the air continued without pause. Around Worry-Free City, countless cultivators looked up at the sky. The acting city lord, Huoguang, showed his domineering side for the first time. Countless people looked up at the sky in shock. The 8,000 experts of the 5 sects rushed over. In an instant there were countless experts around the floating island. Lu Jin and the others were extremely excited. While Huoguang suppressed the crowd, a large hall opened at the bottom of the floating island. The disciples of the 5 sects immediately saw a man in a Taoist robe walk out of the hall. Elder. Everyone called out respectfully. An old man in a Tai Chi Taoist robe stepped out and looked coldly at the sky. Bam. Bam. Under Huoguang's long spear, the 20 Divine Realm warriors were injured. 2 of them even had their heads explode and died on the spot. Bastard. The old man in the Tai Chi Taoist robe glared and a powerful aura shot up to the sky. The aura of a lower void realm warrior forced Huoguang's long spear to stop. Whoosh. The remaining 18 Divine Realm warriors looked at Huoguang in fear and quickly dodged. Huoguang was too terrifying. Shrouded in the will of the stars, Huoguang was too ferocious. Everyone felt that they were not facing a human but a peerless demon. Huoguang looked down and stared at the old man in the Tai Chi Taoist robe. Huoguang glared and said, Lower Void Realm warrior? Ignorant kid, why don't you surrender? The old man in the Tai Chi Taoist robe said coldly. So what if you are in the lower void realm? Huoguang will still kill you. Huoguang glared. Chapter 600. Ignorant brat, why aren't you surrendering? The old man in the Taiji Taoist robe said coldly. So what if you are at the lower void stage? Huoguang will kill you all the same. Huoguang glared. Huoguang dared to say such words because Huoguang had the ability to do so. Firstly, he had the will of the stars and the army destroyer. The star will that was born for battle. Secondly, Huoguang originally had the potential to be a fierce general. Throughout his cultivation journey, he had been growing in the midst of slaughter. The ferocity of his battles was overwhelming. Furthermore, according to Yin Chuan's method, Huoguang's body was tempered by heavenly lightning. His body was not weaker than a lower emptiness realm expert. Most importantly, Huoguang's cultivation technique, the Spear Heart Secret Art, was a heaven-grade cultivation technique. In terms of cultivation technique, it was definitely much stronger than an ordinary lower emptiness realm expert. Ignorant brat, you're courting death. The old man in the Taiji Taoist robes glared at Meng Hao, then took a step forward and shot into the sky. Swish. A sword rainbow instantly slashed towards Huoguang. Huoguang's eyes widened as he stretched out his spear towards the sword rainbow. Boom. Under the impact, Huoguang was pushed back 100 zhang before he stabilized himself. The lower emptiness realm naturally had its own uniqueness. Even though Huoguang had many outstanding points, he was no longer as unbridled as before. You've just transcended the 3 and 9 heavenly tribulation, yet you're able to withstand my sword? The old man's face darkened. Lower void stage? Since that's the case, then you can be my whetstone. Huoguang glared at him and rushed forward. Boom. The astral spear shot straight at the old man in the Taiji Taoist robe, and the 2 of them started fighting in the void. Oh. Oh. Who? Fierce winds blew as the 2 peerless powerhouses fought each other. Moe and the others' faces sank. Huoguang? What a terrifying Huoguang! A deity realm expert exclaimed in shock. 1 against 20? He alone can kill 20 of my men? He can still be so calm when facing an emptiness realm expert? The faces of the Immortal State warriors turned extremely ugly. Trying to escape? Where do you think you're going? The old man in the Taiji Daoist robe suddenly shouted. Because at this moment Huo Guang was fighting and retreating towards the east. Aha, to deal with you, do you think I'm going to run? Huo Guang shouted. Although he shouted, Huo Guang still moved towards the east. That's not right. Sect leader Mo Yi's expression changed. What is it? Huo Guang isn't running away. He's heading to the east gate. He wants to break open the east gate and let the 100,000 soldiers in. Mo Yi immediately saw through Huo Guang's intentions. What should he do? Although Elder can suppress Huo Guang, he can't stop Huo Guang from heading east. A deity realm expert frowned. Come on, let's go to Elder Qi and stop Huo Guang from leaving. Mo Yi shouted. All right. The 18 Immortal State warriors rushed up to the sky and surrounded Yi Qin. Rumble. Huo Guang was fighting against a lower Void State warrior and 18 Immortal State warriors alone. The pressure on him multiplied and he was trapped on the spot. Huo Guang fought like a madman. Looking at the sky, all the cultivators were amazed by Huo Guang's strength. He had just reached the first level of the Immortal State, but he could fight against a lower Void State warrior and 18 Immortal State warriors? That was unbelievable. Countless people revealed a look of shock. King Ye's face darkened. He felt that he might have made the wrong decision. At the southern city gate, Dan Qingzi's face twitched. Dan Qingzi had witnessed Huo Guang's growth. Huo Guang, who used to be something that he could easily crush, was now showing such a ferocious side. Wasn't this too exaggerated? On the floating island, Lu Jin watched Huo Guang lead the people away. She took a deep breath and said, Generals, let's go. Huo Guang has stalled all the Immortal State warriors and lower Void State warriors. Go to the 4 city gates and break open the city gates. Let the 100,000 soldiers in. Chapter 601. Yes. The 50 Qijing cultivators shouted in unison. Whoosh. The 50 Qijing cultivators quickly fled in all directions. Where do you think you're going? The 5 sects had sent 8,000 cultivators into the city, and there were hundreds of Qijing cultivators. How could they allow the 50 Qijing cultivators to destroy the city? Rumble. The 50 Qijing cultivators were stopped in their tracks. They were outnumbered several times over, and it was impossible for them to escape. Lu Jin stood on the floating island with a gloomy face. In an instant, battles broke out in the city, and the 100,000 soldiers outside the city were anxious. Ha, it's useless. Huo Guang, surrender. Mo Yi looked around and laughed. Asking Huo Guang to surrender? Yan Chuan was probably the only person in the world who could do that. Others? Dream on. Huo Guang roared as he continued to attack with his spear. It's useless. No one can save you. The 100,000 soldiers won't be able to help you at the city gates. Mo Yi laughed. Mo Yi, you old fool. Suddenly, a loud shout came from the carefree city. Many cultivators turned around to look at the source of the shout. It was the peak of a tall mountain. The peak of the mountain was not far from the Imperial Demon Palace. King Yimu turned to look at the source of the voice, and his expression changed drastically. On the peak, Lu Gang stood at the front with 50 Tide cultivators kneeling behind him. Behind each of the Tide cultivators stood a disciple of the Imperial Demon sect. Father, save me. One of the kneeling cultivators screamed in fear. Ah, my son, you bastard. Mo Yi screamed. Father, save me. Grandfather, save me. Third uncle, save me. Great-grandfather, save me. 50 tied-up Xiozha cried for help in terror. Bastard. How dare you? You're courting death. The 18 Immortal Realm cultivators were furious. For a moment, the 18 Immortal Realm cultivators panicked. Some of them even wanted to charge over. Lu Gang grabbed Mo Yi's son and placed his saber on his neck. Don't come over. The Imperial Demon Sect disciples placed their sabers on the necks of the kneeling cultivators. Oh. The faces of the 18 Divinity State warriors darkened. Their loved ones were restrained, and for a moment they were very anxious. Unfilial disciple, let go of me. King Yimu yelled. King Yi didn't expect his disciple to be so bold as to capture the family members of the Immortal State experts from the 5 major sections. This was pushing the demon-controlling sect to their doom. Lu Gang glanced at King Wild. Master, it's not that I don't want to release them, it's just that it's too late. Master, please order my sect's disciples to open the city gates. Lu Gang shouted. Bastard, are you threatening your master? King Wild Mu's face darkened. Open the city gates? Moe and the other Immortal State warriors in the sky were shocked. King Mai, don't open the gate. No one is allowed to open it. Moe roared. Father, save me. Faced with Lu Gang's cold hand, Mo's son immediately cried out in pain. Mo looked at his son and his face darkened. However, Mo knew that once the city gates opened, all their efforts would be for naught. Even if you captured my son, you can't threaten me. Mo shouted coldly. That's right, kid, you're courting death. You want to use our loved ones to threaten us? Dream on. The Immortal Realm cultivators shouted. Lu Gang looked at the Immortal Realm cultivators and sneered, Threaten you? I'm not going to threaten you. Then Lu Gang looked at King Wild Mu and said, Master, it's up to you whether to open the city gates or not. Chapter 602. After saying that, a sinister glint flashed in Lu Gang's eyes, and he pulled his hand. Boom. Mo's son's head was separated from his neck. Lu Gang instantly beheaded him. King Ye's heart skipped a beat. Roar. Bastard. How dare you kill my son? Mo roared like a madman. Mo didn't open the city gates because he was sure that Lu Gang wouldn't dare hurt his son. Who would have thought that Lu Gang would kill his son on the spot? Kill them. Lu Gang shouted. Yes. Bam. 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 Behind Lu Gang, the 50 Divine Realm relatives who were tied up were all beheaded and killed on the spot. No. Bastard. Brat, you're courting death. The Immortal State warriors roared as they watched their sons, nephews and grandsons being killed one after another. The Immortal State warriors roared in anger. Lu Gang had been watching King Wild the whole time he had killed 50 Immortal State warriors of his family. Master, for the sake of the demon-controlling sect, it's up to you, Lu Gang said in a deep voice. King Wild Mu's eyelids twitched violently. He finally understood what was going on. Killing their relatives in front of the 5 major sects was not a threat to the 5 major sects, but a threat to himself. The demon-controlling sect had killed their loved ones. After this battle, it would be impossible for the demon-controlling sect to escape unscathed, let alone share the benefits. Wretched disciple, wretched spawn. King Yi Mu's expression was extremely ugly. This was Lu Gang using his own viciousness to force the demon control sect onto Yan Chuan's ship. Master, hurry. Lu Gang shouted as he led his senior brothers towards King Wild Mun. King Yi Mu's expression was extremely ugly, but he still roared, Listen up, demon-controlling sect disciples. Withdraw the formation and open the city gates. In the distance, on the southern gate tower, Dan Qingzi was completely dumbfounded. He watched as Lu Gang killed the relatives of the 5 great sects in the distance. Compared to his ruthless methods, his methods of currying favor with Lu Gang were far inferior. Without needing Dan Qingzi to say anything, the disciples of the monster-controlling sect all opened their gates. Quang. Kill. Kill. The city gates opened, and the 100,000 soldiers outside the city roared as they swarmed in. Bastard, close the door, close the door. Mo screamed. He roared furiously at King Yi. Lu Gang and the others quickly hid behind King Wild. King Yi Mai's expression was extremely ugly. His traitorous disciple had forced him to side with Yan Chuan? Mo yelled at him not to open the city gates, but it was still the same. King Wild had no choice but to swallow this bitter pill. He turned his head and looked coldly at the other side. He had no choice but to join forces with Huo Guang. Junior brothers. Protect Lu Gang. King Wild said bitterly. At this moment, if Lu Gang was killed, the demon-controlling sect would really be in a dilemma. The other 2 Immortal State warriors from the monster-controlling sect looked at King Yi Mu bitterly. They took out their weapons and prepared to fend off the Immortal State warriors. Rumble. The demon-controlling sect joined the battle. Ah! On the floating island, Lu Jin laughed loudly. 100,000 soldiers had entered the city. The 50 Qi State warriors who were besieged suddenly became excited because the reinforcements had arrived. After sending a few Immortal State warriors to kill Lu Gang, Huo Guang seemed to be able to catch his breath. Ah! Huo Guang laughed excitedly. First Legion, kill all the cultivators from the 5 major sections. Kill, kill, kill. Huo Guang roared from the sky. Yes. The 100,000 soldiers who had rushed into the city roared in unison. Their voices shook the entire carefree city. Monstrous murderous intent gathered on the floating island. 100,000 soldiers besieged 8,000 cultivators. Ah, bastard! Mo roared. The situation suddenly became chaotic. The situation that was originally under control changed in the blink of an eye. It was completely out of control. Mo was furious. Chapter 603. Xiao. The 4, 5, 6, and 7 swordsmen landed beside Yan Chuan. "Martial uncle, big brother?" The 4 swordsmen greeted. When the 4 arrived, the eyes of the 800 Qi Jing practitioners lit up. Did someone come to find Yan Chuan? This was different from before. "It's good that you're here," Yan Chuan said calmly. "Have you found the place? Don't tell me you don't remember the way back?" The 3 swordsmen laughed. "Of course we know. Just follow us." The 4 swordsmen laughed. As soon as the 4 swordsmen finished speaking, all the sounds of birds, beasts, insects, and fish disappeared. The 800 Qi Jing practitioners who were whispering to each other also became quiet. Everyone's spirits were suddenly shaken. The place? Where? The white-clothed lady with the blue phoenix pulling the carriage? Yan Chuan asked the 4 of them to find the place. "We guessed right. If we follow Yan Chuan, we will definitely find the Tian-level skill. We didn't wait in vain." The surrounding practitioners started to discuss again. At the same time, their eyes were filled with hope. The sudden change in the environment surprised the 4 swordsmen. "What? Did I say something wrong?" the 4 swordsmen asked. "You didn't say anything wrong." Yan Chuan laughed. "Peng?" Above the lake, a pillar of water shot out. A 10-meter-long azure crocodile soared into the sky. However, a spear pierced through its abdomen. The one who came out of the water after that was the slightly injured Huo Guang. The crocodile was thrown onto the shore. Huo Guang was the first to jump onto the shore. Peng? Peng? A large number of crocodiles jumped out of the water. A group of Genie army soldiers rushed out with their trophies. In the blink of an eye, there were 500 crocodile corpses on the shore. "King, the mission is complete," Huo Guang said excitedly. "Set up camp and eat." Yan Chuan nodded. "Yes." The 3,000 embroidered uniform army soldiers quickly got busy. At this moment, the faces of the surrounding 800 cultivators stiffened. "Stop to eat and rest again? Don't you know where the woman in white is? Go quickly. What would happen if she left?" Although the Xiozhou were anxious, there was nothing they could do. After all, Yan Chuan still needed to personally ask for the heaven-grade cultivation method. He could only wait. After setting up camp and cooking delicious food, Yan Chuan started to eat in the headquarters tent. Accompanying them were Huo Guang, Lu Jin, Zhu Jiansheng, and the 7 swordsmen. "Uncle, there are already more than 800 Qi Jing warriors, aren't you worried at all?" 6 swordsmen asked curiously. "What are you worried about?" Yan Chuan smiled. "You're worried that they'll harm you." 6 swordsmen was confused. "Will it? Why not?" The 6 swordsmen were puzzled. "Because they are not a single entity, I am safer." Yan Chuan laughed. "Mutual restraint?" The 3 swordsmen asked curiously. "Yes. Moreover, if there is any danger, these 800 Qi Jing warriors will help." Huo Guang also laughed. "Xiao." Just as everyone was talking, a stone suddenly shot into the tent. Dong. The stone hit Yan Chuan's table. Ching, ching. The group of swordsmen pulled out their swords and looked at the stone in surprise. Yan Chuan looked at the stone and sneered, "Someone is trying to assassinate me?" Oh. Huo Guang immediately stood up. Chapter 604. Yan Chuan nodded. Huo Guang acted as if nothing had happened and walked out of the tent with the wine. Outside the tent, there were many soldiers eating crocodiles. "Brothers, the king asked me to give you a toast. Now that we are outside, there is no wine, so we will use meat as a substitute." "Ah." Huo Guang laughed. "Sir." Everyone stood up. Huo Guang held the wine cup in one hand and made a strange gesture with the other. The gesture was normal, but all the soldiers' pupils shrank. "Long live the king." All the soldiers raised the meat and congratulated. While eating the meat, the soldiers chatted and divided into different groups. Inside the tent. "Assassination? Martial uncle, how did you know?" Zhu Jiansheng was surprised. "This is a reminder from one of the 800 practitioners." Yan Chuan smiled as he looked at the pebbles on the table. "Ah? Oh." Zhu Jiansheng was curious. "Oh, how would I know? They helped me find out. We just need to be more careful." Yan Chuan laughed. "Assassination? What should we do?" The 3 swordsmen were worried. "What are you worried about? Huo Guang is already there. Don't worry about them, let's continue eating." Yan Chuan laughed. "Ah." Everyone was confused. Martial uncle is too carefree. Even if someone tries to assassinate him, he won't care? While everyone was eating, Huo Guang raised his cup and walked around the 3,000 soldiers. Some of the soldiers disappeared without them noticing. On a hill not far from the main tent, 20 Qijing assassins sent by Wei Chan were all staring at the main tent. "Boss, I saw it. Yan Chuan is in the tent," one of them said coldly. "There are 800 Qijing cultivators outside. There are 8-day sex Qijing cultivators in the tent. The others are not a problem," the leader said. 8-day sex Qijing cultivators are not a problem. The main thing is that there are 800 Qijing cultivators outside. They are all waiting for Yan Chuan to lead the way. If we assassinate him, won't they be angry? Angry? Whatever, we must complete the mission given by the alliance leader. We must rush into the tent. You 8 block the 8-day sex Qijing cultivators. The 12 of us will attack at the same time and kill Yan Chuan. Once Yan Chuan is dead, we will retreat. It will be too late to save the 800 cultivators, the leader said. Boss is wise. We will escape after killing Yan Chuan. No one can stop us. Well, since it's confirmed, let's begin immediately. I'll count to 3 and we'll move out together. Yes. Whoosh, 20 black figures instantly shot towards the central tent like 20 sharp arrows. They were so fast that the countless cultivators in the surroundings could not react in time. The 20 assassins arrived in front of the tent and were about to enter. Bang! Suddenly 500 rays of light shot towards the tent. 500 shooting sun arrows shot towards the 20 assassins. Huh! The 20 assassins' faces changed. Bang! The assassins spat out their chi walls one after another, and a powerful aura spread out. Bang! 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 The shooting sun arrows were blocked by the air wall, but the power of the 500 shooting sun arrows was enormous. When they hit the air wall, the speed of the assassins suddenly stopped. Some of the assassins were even knocked back by the force of the shooting sun arrows. Not good. The assassin leader's face changed. Shoot. Bang. Chapter 605. With a clear target, the second volley of 2,000 shooting sun arrows exploded out. 2,000 streams of light, like a meteor shower, fiercely crashed into the air wall of the 20 assassins. Rumble. It was equivalent to a Qijing realm cultivator facing 100 shooting sun arrows. Although the power of a Qijing realm cultivator was not as strong as a Qijing realm cultivator, there were many of them. With the combined power of 100 shooting sun arrows, the power of the shooting sun arrows was comparable to a Qijing realm cultivator. The air wall around the 20 assassins shook violently, almost collapsing completely. We've been discovered. Not good. Someone cried out. Let's go. You want to leave? Shoot. Huo Guang shouted again. Pun. This time there were even more arrows. 3,000 arrows burst out almost at the same time. There were even more arrows than before and they were even more ferocious. 3,000 rays of golden light shot out, bringing with them endless despair. They closed in on the 20 assassins. Originally they looked down on the Essence Realm, but now, boom. The air wall exploded from the impact, and the remaining force of the rain of arrows unscrupulously struck the crowd of cultivators. Bang! Bang! The air wall exploded and all the Xiozhia were heavily injured. Their long swords struck the rain of arrows, but there were too many arrows. How could he block all 3,000 arrows at once? The assassins were hit by the arrows and fell to the ground. Of the 20 assassins, 5 were dead and the remaining 15 were covered in arrows. They were all at a loss as they looked at the group of elite realm cultivators in disbelief. Impossible, impossible. The leader said in disbelief. The 20 of them were assassins, yet they were all wiped out in the blink of an eye? I'm in the Qi realm, but they're in the Qi realm. Those guys are only in the Essence realm. At this time, no one would sympathize with them. The 800 Qijing cultivators who had regained their senses were also glaring at the assassins. It was already merciful that they didn't teach them a lesson. Why would they pity them? At the same time, the 800 Qi realm cultivators were also looking at Huo Guang and the others in surprise. These days, the Jin Yi army had only killed 2 or 3 Qi realm beasts, so the cultivators didn't think much of it. At this moment, he finally realized the true power of the Imperial Secret Army. 20 Qi state warriors? Take him down in an instant? Pierce his shoulder blades and tie him up. Huo Guang shouted. Yes. The soldiers replied. In the blink of an eye, 15 Qijing cultivators were tied up and brought to the main tent. In the central tent, Yan Chuan was still drinking and eating. Zhu Jiansheng and the 7 swordsmen looked at the group of Qijing warriors kneeling on the ground in confusion. Boss, try slapping me. The 3 swordsmen felt like he was dreaming. Slap. The great swordsman slapped the 3rd swordsman's face. Ouch, you really hit me. The three swordsmen's face immediately swelled up. Looking at his palm, the great swordsman said in a deep voice, "It hurts quite a bit. Looks like it's not a dream." "Boss, I'll fight you to the death," the three swordsmen said with grief and indignation. Zhu Jiansheng looked at Huo Guang in surprise. "They are from the Life League. They are all in the Qi state. Are these Qijing warriors still the same group of mortals that he met a year ago?" With 5 dead, the 15 Qijing warriors kneeled in front of Yan Xuan like prisoners. "Yan Xuan, you better let me go now. Otherwise the Life League will kill you like how we killed your father," one of the Qijing assassins said viciously. "What did you say?" Yan Xuan put down a piece of meat and said coldly, "I said like how we killed your father." The assassin said again. "Sure." A long spear came from behind and pierced through his heart. It was Huo Guang who killed him with a single spear strike. The 14 assassins who wanted to scare Yan Xuan suddenly changed their expressions. These people are crazy. Chapter 606. Qinglong arrives. Kill. 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 The 100,000-strong army soon clashed with the disciples of the 5 sections. The 8,000 disciples of the 5 sects were at the Qi state level several times higher than the army. However, the advantage of the army lay not only in their power but also in their overall strength. Once the shooting sun arrows were fired, even the strongest Qi state cultivators would have no chance against them. The army was well trained and their attacks were deadly. "Help! Master, help me!" The battle was a mess. The 8,000 disciples screamed in agony. The army had grown through fighting. Their spear techniques were invincible. The 8,000 disciples were killed one after another. 5 immortal state cultivators attacked Lu Gang out of hatred. Lu Gang hid in the array outside the Imperial Demon sect while King Yi and 2 other immortal state cultivators held on. In the distance, the disciples of the 5 sects suffered heavy casualties. The immortal state cultivators seemed to have lost their minds. "Bastard! Bastard!" The immortal state cultivators roared. 5 immortal state cultivators charged toward the army. "Fire!" Lu Jin said coldly. Bang! 10,000 arrows were fired at the 5 immortal state cultivators. Nearly 100 Qi state cultivators charged toward them. Most of the 100,000-strong army were immortal state cultivators, but there were too many of them. They were more than enough to kill the Qi state cultivators of the 5 sections. For a time, a great battle began. Although Huo Guang was struggling bitterly, the situation was in his favor, and everything was in his favor. Drag it out, so be it. Mo Yi's eyelids twitched. All immortal state warriors besiege Huo Guang. Capture Huo Guang and defeat the 100,000-strong army. Mo Yi shouted. Mo Yi's decision was correct. As long as Huo Guang was captured, the 100,000-strong army would surrender. Whoosh! The 10 immortal state cultivators quickly flew back to Huo Guang's battlefield. King Yi heaved a sigh of relief after the immortal state cultivators left. "Master, quick! Help Huo Guang. Inform all the disciples of the demon-controlling sect to assist the 100,000-strong army." Lu Gang cried out anxiously. If Huo Guang were to die or be captured, then all his previous plans would be for naught. King Yi frowned as he looked at Lu Gang, his eyes filled with anger. If not for Lu Gang, how could the demon-controlling sect be so passive? "Master, this disciple will accept any punishment. Please consider the survival of the Imperial Demon sect as the most important thing. After this battle, this disciple will offer a humble apology," Lu Gang said solemnly. King Wild Mu's face darkened. "Junior brothers, let's go." King Wild soared into the sky. The other 2 immortal state warriors also followed King Wild and charged toward the battlefield where Huo Guang was. "Disciples of the demon-controlling sect, heed my command. Assist the army of 100,000 and exterminate the disciples of the 5 sects as soon as possible." King Yimu roared. "Yes." The disciples of the demon-controlling sect answered. "King Mai, you're courting death." Mo scolded. Mo was not the only one. Almost all the immortal state warriors on Huo Guang's battlefield were glaring at King Mai. Huo Guang laughed out loud. Bam! An energy blade slashed at Huo Guang's back. Suddenly, a wall of air appeared behind him to block the attack. Even so, the impact still left Huo Guang in a sorry state. Kill. King Mai had no choice but to go all out this time. He quickly harassed the immortal state warriors. However, his opponents were too strong. 1 lower void stage cultivator and 18 immortal state warriors were too strong. Huo Guang was constantly being suppressed. The old man in the Taiji Taoist robe even left a long scar on his chest. Huoguang's spear danced more and more fiercely. Every time he attacked, it seemed like both sides would suffer. Chapter 607. Little brat, are you really that strong? The lower ethereal state old man was also shocked. How could Huoguang still be able to struggle in such a situation? The old man was shocked by Yi Futian's strength. Was he really a Tier 1 immortal state warrior? The battle lasted for an entire afternoon. King Yi Mu was covered in wounds, and the two immortal state warriors were covered in blood. Huoguang was the same. There were hundreds of wounds on his chest and back. However, Huoguang was like a ferocious tiger that refused to admit defeat. Even if his defeat was certain, he was unwilling to admit defeat. Roar. Die. Huoguang waved his spear crazily. The immortal state warriors were about to win, but none of them could laugh. Less than 1,000 of the 8,000 disciples were left. The army of 100,000 had also lost their minds. Lord, you're buying time for us. Kill. For Lord, kill. Lord. The army of 100,000 was furious. They vented their anger on the disciples of the 5 major sects when they saw the battle in the sky. Qi state warriors could fly, but they couldn't fight in the air. Even the airflow created by Huoguang's battle kept the Qi state warriors away. They didn't dare to shoot arrows for fear of hurting Huoguang. Kill them all. Don't leave a single one of them alive. Kill them all. The soldiers' eyes were red as they vented their impatience. Senior brother, I can't hold on any longer. An immortal state warrior from the Imperial Demon sect said in pain. You have to do it even if you can't. Continue to cause trouble. King Yi Mu said anxiously. Yes. The intense battle continued, and the blood on Huoguang's body kept increasing. The 8,000 disciples of the 5 major sects were all killed. They looked at the sky anxiously. Almost everyone was looking at the battlefield in the sky. At that moment, no one noticed a green light shooting toward the carefree city. Whoosh. The speed of the green light was extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, it had arrived at the worry-free city. Furthermore, it used its fastest speed to reach the floating island of the worry-free city. Who's there? Protect Eunuch Lu. The soldiers instantly became nervous. Whoosh. A gust of wind blew and 2 figures appeared in front of Lu Jin. Qinglong and Yifeng. Stop. Lu Jin shouted. Her face lit up with joy. Mr. E, is our king back? Lu Jin exclaimed in surprise. Yifeng nodded. Seeing Yifeng nod his head, Lu Jin immediately revealed a look of wild elation. Great! My king is back. Our king is back. This is? Yifeng turned his head to look at the sky. Senior Azure Dragon, please help Huoguang quickly. Lu Jin immediately called out. Azure Dragon nodded and said, Protect Yifeng. As he spoke, Azure Dragon soared into the sky. Lu Jin looked around. All Qi Jing generals listen up. Protect Mr. Yifeng with your life. Lu Jin shouted. Yes. The Qi Jing generals obeyed. Whoosh. Around Yifeng, close to 100 soldiers suddenly surrounded him. They drew their bows to prevent any accidents from happening. In the sky, Huoguang was suppressed by a group of experts. His face was red and his eyes were filled with unwillingness. Ah, Huoguang, you are at the end of the road. Surrender. Moe said hatefully. 8,000 disciples, all dead. Moe's heart was bleeding. At this moment, Moe had made up his mind. Even if the Great Winged Heaven School wanted to punish him, he would bury the 100,000 soldiers and Huoguang with him. Surrender without a fight? Bah, you think you're worthy? Huoguang said hatefully as he withstood the tremendous strength of the group of experts. Chapter 608. Humph. Then he shall die. Elder, kill him. Avenge the disciples of the 5 sects. Moe shouted. The inferior void stage elder nodded. Okay. Boom. Suddenly, a beam of azure light shot up into the sky. Suddenly, a loud bang was heard as a powerful force dispersed the group of overlords. Huoguang was freed. Almost everyone's expression changed. A man in an azure robe suddenly appeared beside Huoguang. King Wild was covered in blood, but he still flew to Huoguang's side with 2 immortal state warriors. King Wild's eyes lit up when he saw the man in the azure robe. King Wild knew this man. He had met him once in the Feng Shui formation. It's him? Suddenly, a glimmer of hope flashed across King Wild's heart. Huoguang, we are late. Qinglong said with a wry smile. Ah, you are not late. Just in time. Guang laughed. Who are you? The inferior void stage elder asked. Qing Long ignored the elder and said to Guang, I will stop this inferior void stage cultivator. You take care of these immortal state warriors. Qing Long sighed when he said this. He was able to cultivate so fast because he followed the saintess and received merit from the Dazhao sacred ground. However, when he looked at Guang, Qing Long realized that the speed he was so proud of was a disgrace. He still remembered that Guang was only immortal back then. How could he be so powerful now? According to the situation just now, Azure Dragon was sure that Guang could block a group of Divine Realm warriors. No, Qing Long, help me take care of these immortal state warriors. I will deal with this inferior void stage cultivator. Guang said with a glare. What? Qing Long was surprised. The injuries on my body were all caused by him. I want him to pay me back 100-fold. Guang said with a fierce look in his eyes. Qing Long stared blankly at Guang and finally nodded. Old man, give me your life. Guang brandished his long spear and suddenly, a huge spear aura rushed out. Just as Moe and the others were about to help, a huge force suddenly struck them. It was Qing Long's palm. A dragon-shaped green light wave shot straight at Moe. Moe thought that Qing Long was just an immortal state warrior, so he thrust his sword at him. Boom. Moe's long sword suddenly exploded, and the green light wave rushed towards Moe's chest. Boom. An explosion resounded through the sky. Boom. Moe spat out a mouthful of blood. He was sent flying. Qing Long's attack immediately suppressed the group of deity realm experts. Abyssal Realm? Are you at the Abyssal Realm? An immortal state warrior shouted in horror. Guang had already embarrassed them, and now there was another Abyssal Realm warrior? Boom. Boom. Qing Long quickly attacked with all his strength. The group of immortal state warriors couldn't resist. Suddenly, blood spurted out of their mouths and they were sent flying. Some of them even fell from the sky. Shoot. Below, the army was waiting to attack. Even an immortal state warrior couldn't withstand 10,000 arrows at the same time, not to mention that he was seriously injured. The 3 immortal state warriors of the Imperial Monster Sect were all overjoyed. We are saved, Sect Master, we are saved. An immortal state warrior was covered in blood and said excitedly. Below, at the Imperial Monster Sect, Lu Gang's face was full of joy, and the group of senior brothers behind him were also ecstatic. Junior brother, we made the right bet. The senior brothers were excited. Lu Gang nodded and excitedly led the group of senior brothers to the floating island. When they were near, the army took precautions to bring Lu Gang to the floating island. I am Lu Gang. Greetings to Eunuch Lu and Mr. E. Lu Gang said respectfully. Lu Jin looked at Lu Gang with a smile and said, Lu Gang, you have contributed greatly in this battle. I will report this to the king. Eunuch Lu, you are too polite. This is what I should do. When the king of hell was still in Carefree City, he once asked me if I wanted to be an official. Although it was just a passing remark, I remembered it in my heart. I have always wanted to repay the king of hell for valuing me. Now that I have this opportunity, how can I not do it? Lu Gang said politely. Yifeng looked at Lu Gang. Naturally, he could tell that Lu Gang was here to surrender or to win fame. However, Yifeng didn't say anything because Yan Chuan had been paying attention to this person for a long time. Lu Gang, haha, you have done well this time. The king will not treat you unfairly. Don't worry, I will put in a good word for you in front of the king. Lu Jin said with satisfaction. Thank you, Eunuch Lu. Lu Gang said excitedly. Chapter 609. Day Sect. The sect was silent as the internal strife began. All the disciples had gathered at the foot of the main peak. Yan Chuan carried Miao on his shoulder and entered with Zhu Jiansheng. Not long after, they saw a large number of disciples confronting each other. Martial uncle, what's wrong? Zhu Jiansheng asked in surprise. Yan Chuan squinted his eyes and stopped. There's a big mess in the sect. Zhu Jiansheng said anxiously. Miao, take out the 100 swords. Yan Chuan said to Miao. Miao. Miao quickly took out 100 swords from her felt hat. Zhu Jiansheng. Yan Chuan looked at Zhu Jiansheng. He handed over a map. Martial uncle, what's this? Zhu Jiansheng asked in confusion. Follow this map and place the 100 swords around the main peak. Wait for my orders. I'll go to the main peak first. Yan Chuan said in a deep voice. Yes. Zhu Jiansheng nodded. Leaving Zhu Jiansheng behind, Yan Chuan walked towards the main peak. Main peak, Great River Hall. Mo Wuhui, do you really want to cause internal strife in Day Sect? Mo Wuhui, you don't have the qualifications to be the sect leader. Feng Qianyu, you betrayed your master. How can you face your father? In the Great River Hall it was noisy. The Divine Realm experts who supported Mo Wuhui and Feng Qianyu were arguing. Why go through so much trouble? Feng Qianyu, you and Mo Wuhui have a fight. The outcome is clear. Mo Wuhui doesn't have the qualifications to be the sect leader. A black-robed man behind Feng Qianyu said lightly. Bastard, who are you? Hiding your head and showing your tail. Gao Bufan shouted coldly. The leader of the 20 black-robed men sneered. It doesn't matter who I am. What matters is that Mo Wuhui is a cripple. What did you say? Gao Bufan shouted. How dare you? Duan Sanshu also shouted angrily. Ah, Peak Master, I'll test it for you. Jiang Nan said with a sneer. Clang. Jiang Nan instantly pulled out his long sword and stabbed towards Mo Wuhui. Mo Wuhui stared coldly. Ding. Gao Bufan instantly pulled out his sword and knocked Jiang Nan's sword away with a loud bang. You're courting death, drawing your sword against the sect leader. You're deceiving your master and destroying your ancestors. San Gao, who are you trying to scare? Ching, 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 ching. In the main hall, a group of Divine Realm experts pulled out their swords. Just now it was just a verbal quarrel. Now because of Jiang Nan's recklessness they were really at loggerheads. Sword chi surrounded both sides. For a time the main hall was filled with sword chi. In some places sword chi collided with each other making a dull sound. In the main hall a fierce wind blew. The leader of the black-robed men spoke again. Feng Qianyu, we can only do this much for you. Go and challenge Mo Wuhui. Let everyone see what Mo Wuhui is like. Let's see if he is qualified. Feng Qianyu's eyelids twitched. He grabbed the hilt of his sword. Opposite him Mo Wuhui looked coldly at him. In the main hall, sword chi shot in all directions. A battle was about to break out. Bastard, what a disgrace. Suddenly, a loud shout came from the side hall. A powerful aura rushed out. The powerful aura suppressed the group of Divine Realm and Chi Realm experts. In fact, before that imposing aura, the crowd sword auras were all forced back. Oh. Jiang Nan asked in surprise. Chapter 610. Two angry old men slowly walked out of the side hall. Elders? When did you come back? Gao Bufan and the others were pleasantly surprised. The people behind Mo Wuhui all looked happy, but the people behind Feng Qianyu all looked extremely unsightly. The two elders of the Day sect. The aura of the two elders rushed toward Feng Qianyu and the others. The powerful suppression made the experts unable to resist. Emptiness realm? Lower emptiness realm? Jiang Nan exclaimed. The two elders walked over and looked at Feng Qianyu with bitter resentment. Tianyu, I watched you grow up. How did you become like this? Tianyu, are you going to destroy the Day sect? How can you face your father? The two elders scolded Feng Qianyu in disappointment. Because he was Feng Tyrant's son, the two elders took good care of Feng Qianyu. They didn't expect that Feng Qianyu would come to the Great River Hall to force them to abdicate. Feng Qianyu looked at the two and his expression became more complicated. He shook his head and said firmly, I didn't do anything wrong. I did it for the Day sect. Bastard. Nonsense. The two elders glared at Feng Qianyu and their angry aura suppressed Feng Qianyu. It was as if they wanted Feng Qianyu to submit. The suppression of two lower emptiness realm experts was extremely powerful. Feng Qianyu's legs trembled, but he forced himself not to kneel down. Two old men. The leader of the black-cloaked men suddenly shouted. Boom. While speaking, the two black-cloaked men suddenly took out a large saber and slashed toward the two emptiness realm elders. After the two sabers slashed, the two elders realized that the situation was not good. It seemed that the situation was out of their control. They hurriedly raised their swords to block the attack. Boom, boom. Two loud sounds came from the Great River Hall. A violent hurricane rushed out of the hall. The terrifying aura pressed down the mountain, causing the faces of the Day sect disciples at the foot of the mountain to change. Ka. A large number of cracks appeared on the floor of the Great River Hall. The swords of the two elders were fiercely suppressed by the two black-cloaked men. The four of them were in a stalemate and couldn't move. Emptiness Realm Elders? You are also Emptiness Realm Elders? One of the elders couldn't move and shouted. Who are you? Who are you? Another elder asked in surprise. Among the 20 black-robed men, 2 of them were actually Emptiness Realm experts? Mo Wuhui and the others felt as if they were being suppressed by this terrifying aura. Feng Chanyu, what are you waiting for? The leader of the black-robed men shouted. Feng Chanyu, you traitor! An elder exclaimed. However, they were both emptiness realm experts. At this moment, the two elders could only remain in a stalemate, unable to intervene. Bus. Feng Chanyu pointed his sword at Mo Wu Hui, and a burst of divine realm aura rushed out. Boom. Mo Wu Hui's body trembled as he spat out a mouthful of blood. Feng Chanyu's face darkened. Sect Master, what's wrong with you? Gao Bufan exclaimed. Duan Sanshu immediately stood in front of Feng Chanyu. Just his aura? Mo Wu Hui couldn't take it and vomited blood? That's impossible. Everyone was surprised. When did Mo Wu Hui become so weak? Scram. The black-robed man waved his hand. Rumble. Duan Sanshu and the others who were in front of Mo Wu Hui were suddenly lifted by a huge force. Moreover, they were fiercely suppressed by the powerful aura of the black-robed man. Another emptiness realm expert? Another emptiness realm expert? What did our Day sect do to deserve this? How did we attract so many emptiness realm experts? An elder shouted in shock. Chapter 6:11. The black-robed man held everyone back, leaving only Mo Wu Hui for Feng Chanyu. Feng Chanyu, attack. The leader of the black-robed men said. Feng Chanyu raised his sword again and looked at Mo Wu Hui. He shook his head and said, Mo Wu Hui, hand over the Tiansu. Feng Chanyu's eyes flashed with anticipation. Impossible. I will never hand over the Tiansu to you. Mo Wu Hui stood up with difficulty. At this moment, Mo Wu Hui looked extremely weak. You are pushing everyone in the Day sect to destruction. Feng Chanyu said with an ugly expression. Destruction? You destroyed it, didn't you? Mo Wu Hui's eyes were cold. Hand over the Tiansu to me and the Day sect will be safe. You will all be fine. Feng Chanyu said in a low voice. Over my dead body. Mo Wu Hui's eyes were filled with hatred. Since that is the case, I can only sacrifice you. After killing you, the Tiansu will naturally appear. Feng Chanyu's eyes revealed a trace of difficulty. Stop, Feng Chanyu, don't you dare. The two elders were anxious. Feng Chanyu, you bastard. Gao Bufan and the rest shouted angrily. Mo Wu Hui did not resist but looked coldly at Feng Chanyu. Feng Chanyu's eyes were cold as he slashed his sword at Mo Wu Hui. No. In the main hall, those who supported Mo Wu Hui all shouted. Swish. At this moment, a black light suddenly shot into the main hall. The black light was extremely fast and appeared in the middle of everyone in an instant. Ding. The black light hit Feng Chanyu's sword and knocked it away. Everyone's expression changed as they looked at the black light. The black light stopped. It was a black sword. The sword floated in the air and emitted traces of evil chi. The black sword suddenly blocked in front of Mo Wu Hui and faced Feng Chanyu and the rest. Sword spirit. The leader of the black-robed men said in a low voice. Jade Emperor's sword? This is Yan Chuan's sword. Gao Bufan's eyes lit up. At this moment, Yan Chuan stood at the entrance of the Great River Hall and slowly walked into the main hall. Swish. The Jade Emperor's sword instantly flew back to Yan Chuan. Greetings to Uncle. Yan Chuan, you are back. In the main hall, everyone around Mo Wu Hui. Yan Chuan's face was gloomy as he slowly stepped into the hall. Jiang Nan's eyes flashed with hatred. Haha, you really walked right into the trap. Yan Chuan, you actually came back by yourself? The leader of the black-robed men laughed. Yan Chuan ignored him and walked to Mo Wu Hui. Looking at Mo Wu Hui, Yan Chuan's eyebrows twitched as a trace of uneasiness flashed through his heart. Vitality life? Yan Chuan actually couldn't sense any vitality from Mo Wu Hui's body. Was Mo's Uncle Mo and was he to Wu Uncle Chi de Tiani Tiani? Yan Chuan quickly walked in front of Mo Wu Hui. He Uncle Chi he, es uncle. Was elders. Look. It's good that you're back. It's good that you're back. Mo Wu Hui's body softened as he spoke. Yan Chuan hurriedly supported him. Uncle. Senior sister. The people around Mo Wu Hui immediately shouted. At this moment, the black-robed man seemed to have retracted his aura. Everyone surrounded Mo Wu Hui. You don't have any vitality? Why are you like this? Yan Chuan frowned. I was the one who killed her. I have already shattered her soul. I can't believe she could hold on until now. The black-robed man said coldly. What? Her soul shattered? Feng Chanyu frowned and looked at the black-robed man. Mo Wu Hui grabbed Yan Chuan and smiled bitterly. Do you know? I have been waiting for you to come back. I promised your father that I would help you become the sect leader. I promised the old sect leader that I would give you the Tiansu. I thought I couldn't wait any longer. That day he shattered my soul. I thought I was dead for sure. I didn't expect that I would be able to hold on for so long. You are back. You are finally back. Let me take a look. Yan Xuan was worried. It's useless. I can't be saved. You came back in time. I have no regrets. It has been 16 years and 83 days. I don't have to stay in this world anymore. I can go and see Xiao Tao. Mo Wu Hui smiled sadly. Chapter 6:12. It's useless. I can't be saved. You came back in time, so I have no regrets. It's been 16 years and 83 days. I don't have to stay in this world anymore. I can go and see Xiao Tao. Mo Wu Hui revealed a sad smile. Hearing Mo Wu Hui's words, Yan Xuan panicked. Although Mo Wu Hui had always been cold and aloof in the Great River sect, Yan Xuan knew that Mo Wu Hui had always been working hard to make him sit on the sect lord's seat. In other words, she had always misled others and made them think that she was always going against him. Senior sister, you'll be fine. Gao Bufan exclaimed. Sect leader. Everyone immediately cried out. Mo Wu Hui smiled miserably. My heart is already dead. Living on is also a torment. Feng Tairan asked me to keep this heavenly policy for you. Mo Wu Hui flipped his hand and took out a golden scroll. Tiansu. With a wave of her hand, the Tiansu unfolded, revealing lines of words. Day sect bestowed by the heavens. Sect leader Mo Wu Hui. Peak master of heaven Peak Yan Xuan. Peak master of earth Peak Mo Wu Hui. Peak master of black Peak Feng Qianyu. Peak master of yellow Peak Gao Bufan. At this moment, the group of black-robed men didn't seem to be in a hurry as they stared at the Tiansu. Jiang Nan looked at Yan Xuan with hatred. Feng Qianyu's expression was complicated. The Tiansu unfolded, revealing lines of words. Mo Wu Hui smiled slightly and waved her hand. The words on the Tiansu suddenly disappeared. Rumble. The merit pool in the sky above the day sect trembled violently and then rushed down. The pond of merit, which was as vast as a golden cloud, rushed into the great river hall in the blink of an eye and went straight into the heavenly policy. The front of the Tiansu was blank, but there was a golden cloud. The golden cloud gradually condensed and a golden yen word appeared on the Tiansu. Yen? Yan Xuan said in a deep voice. When your father obtained the Tiansu, the initial seal on the Tiansu was only the word yen. When Feng Tairan obtained it, he could have added a second seal, but he didn't. Do you know why? Mo Wu Hui smiled weakly. The Tiansu God bestowment stratagem is a gift from the heavens. Only the first-generation possessor can use it to advance. Once the first seal is engraved, the possessor will be the first-generation possessor. Once the second seal is engraved, it means that the possessor has changed. In the future, the possessor will have to work 10 times harder. Yan Xuan said in a deep voice. It's good that you know. This is only the first seal and it's not finished yet. You can carve Tao or Chuan on the back. To you, this Tiansu is no different from the Tiansu you just got. Mo Wu Hui said weakly. Yan Xuan was silent for a while. Feng Tairan said that this Tiansu was obtained by your father. That year, in order to save the Day sect, your father committed suicide in front of the crowd. The Day sect was ashamed of him and did not have the right to possess this Tiansu. He told me that no matter what, I must give it to you. You can decide how to deal with it. Mo Wu Hui said weakly. After receiving the Tiansu, Yan Xuan's eyes became slightly moist. I'm leaving. I beg you, okay? Mo Wu Hui's body trembled as he said. Say it. Yan Xuan took a deep breath and said. Let me be buried beside your father's grave. I beg you. Mo Wu Hui grabbed Yan Xuan's arm and trembled. With his eyes slightly moist, Yan Xuan nodded solemnly and said, Okay. After getting Yan Xuan's agreement, Mo Wu Hui's face immediately bloomed with a beautiful smile. His hands softened and he closed his eyes. Chapter 6:13. Sect leader. Senior sister, junior sister. The group of immortal state warriors cried. The hall was filled with sorrow. Ah! Suddenly, a burst of laughter sounded in the hall. The leader of the black-robed men laughed and interrupted the crying of the crowd. Yan Xuan turned to look at the black-robed men and placed Mo Wu Hui's body on the ground. He looked at the leader of the black-robed men coldly and said, It was you who shattered Mo Wu Hui's spiritual soul? Was me. I wanted Feng Tianyu to get the Tiansu and call you back. I didn't expect you to come back. You saved me a lot of trouble. Moreover, the Tiansu only has the first seal. It's great. I will get the Tiansu even if I have to change my name. Give it to me. The leader of the black-robed men said excitedly. Yin Chuan looked at him coldly. With a flip of his hand, he kept the heavenly policy in his sleeve. If you don't know what's good for you, in that case you will die. The leader of the black-robed men suddenly attacked and a sword light shot towards Yin Chuan. Ding. The Jade Emperor's sword collided with the black-robed man's sword and knocked it away. Everyone attacked together. Yin Chuan is right in front of you. Kill him. The leader of the black-robed men shouted angrily. Brr. Yin Chuan widened his eyes and let out a loud roar. Shing. 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 Thousands of Jade Emperor's swords suddenly appeared in the hall. All of a sudden, a group of experts were trapped within. How could it be? A black-robed man's face changed. He stretched out his hand and attacked. Boom. The roof of the Great River Hall was overturned with a loud bang, and the entire hall collapsed. However, when the hall was removed, the scene in the surroundings caused the expressions of the experts to change once again. Sword chi, extremely terrifying sword chi. Everyone seemed to be in a world of swords. There was sword chi in all directions. There was no sky or earth. They could only see the swords. The violent sword chi pressured everyone. Yin Chuan was in the sea of swords. The Jade Emperor's sword formation forced the black-robed men to retreat. It was to the extent that the sword chi even took off the hood of the black-robed man, revealing his face. Boom. The two elders of the Day sect were also freed. It's you guys? An elder exclaimed. 5 great sects? 5 lower void stage martial artists? Another elder exclaimed. The black-robed leader was a red-haired old man. Sword array? It's actually a sword formation? The red-haired old man exclaimed. Yin Chuan looked at the red-haired old man and said coldly, Kill him, O Wu Hui? Damn you. 10,000 swords fall. Rumble. Suddenly, boundless sword chi shot toward the red-haired old man from all directions. Powerful sword chi, each of them emitted a dark light. It was as if the heavenly river was pouring down from the heavens as it charged towards the red-haired old man. Bastard. The red-haired old man's face changed. He quickly raised an air wall and used the long sword in his hand to block in all directions. However, the Jade Emperor's sword formation was too powerful. The air wall couldn't block it at all. In the blink of an eye, half of it was cut. The long sword in his hand couldn't be compared to the billions of sword chi. In the blink of an eye, the sword river was about to cut the red-haired old man. The red-haired old man's face changed. No, Yin Chuan, you dare to kill me? The red-haired old man stopped trying to save himself and slashed at Yin Chuan fiercely. Yin Chuan's eyes flashed with a ruthless light. Rumble. The power of the sword chi suddenly increased and slashed at the red-haired old man. Pust 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 pust. In the blink of an eye, the red-haired old man's flesh and blood flew. In the blink of an eye, he was cut into pieces. His blood was absorbed by the Jade Emperor's sword. Chapter 6:14. Ah! With a scream, the red-haired old man turned into a pile of meat paste in the blink of an eye. Under the Jade Emperor's sword array, even his divine soul was crushed. Sword array. The faces of those who were about to resist changed. Is this a sword array? That was the leader of the men in black. He was killed in the blink of an eye? Even the 2 elders of the Day sect were stunned at this moment. They looked at Yin Chuan in disbelief. How is it possible? He was at the lower void realm. How could he be killed by the sword array? What level is this sword at? The 2 elders murmured. A lower void realm cultivator was crushed in the blink of an eye. The men in black trembled. Suddenly no one dared to move. Jiang Nan was even more shocked. Jiang Nan knew that Yin Chuan would be much stronger this time, but he didn't expect that Yin Chuan would be so terrifying. He was at the lower void realm. Feng Qianyu's face showed a trace of bitterness, but the immortal state warriors behind him were frightened. Yin Chuan, we were forced to do this. Peak Master Tian, the 5 sects forced us to do this. Peak Master Tian, we were forced to do this. The rebels of the Day sect shouted. However, Yin Chuan ignored them and looked at Gao Bufan. Peak Master Huang, how did Feng Tairan die? Yin Chuan asked in a deep voice. I don't know. The old sect master's death is very strange. Gao Bufan shook his head. The people of the Day sect shook their heads. Feng Qianyu closed his eyes and looked up without saying a word. Zhu Jiansheng, pull out Feng Tairan's body. I want to examine it. Yin Chuan shouted. At the foot of the mountain, Zhu Jiansheng looked at the endless sword qi on the mountain and was stunned. Is this a sword array? Is this what Uncle Master wanted to do just now? Suddenly Yen Chuan's voice came from the mountain. Yes, Zhu Jiansheng replied. He called out to the nearby junior brothers and a group of people quickly went to a tomb at the back of the mountain. Old sect master, I'm sorry. Zhu Jiansheng bowed respectfully to the grave. Then a group of people quickly lifted out a huge coffin. In the great river hall. Don't test it, I killed him. Feng Qianyu suddenly smiled bitterly. What? In the main hall, almost everyone's expression changed as they looked at Feng Qianyu. Feng Qianyu killed Feng Tairan? Impossible. Feng Qianyu, no matter how much of a bastard you are, it's impossible for you to kill your own father. Gao Bufan immediately cried out. Even though they despised Feng Qianyu for what he had done in the past after so many years, they knew that he was extremely filial to his father. Patricide? How could this be? If you really did it, I will kill you. Yen Chuan said coldly. Feng Qianyu felt bitter and didn't say anything else. At this time, Zhu Jiansheng had already flown up the mountain with the huge coffin. The sword formation opened up a path for Zhu Jiansheng to pass through. In the blink of an eye, he was right in front of everyone. When the coffin was put down, Zhu Jiansheng immediately saw Mo Wuhui lying on the ground. Master, master. Zhu Jiansheng cried out and rushed over. However, Yen Chuan reached out and lifted the lid of Feng Tairan's coffin. Although it had been more than 10 months, perhaps because he was a cultivator, his physical body had not rotted. Inside the coffin, Feng Tairan's expression was extremely peaceful, as if he was sleeping. After a careful inspection, there was a palm print on Feng Tairan's back. It was this palm that had shattered all of Feng Tairan's vitality. Even so, there was no pain on Feng Tairan's face. Instead, there was a kind of peace of liberation. Yen Chuan narrowed his eyes and turned to look at Feng Qianyu. Did you really kill him? Son of Heaven Mo Ku went back on his word and sent the great wise Bodhisattva to eradicate the Dai sect in you. My father sacrificed himself so that my Dai sect could survive until now. Otherwise, my Dai sect would have been destroyed a year ago. Feng Qianyu said bitterly. Everyone thinks that I was threatened by the 5 sects? Aha, 5 sects? What are the 5 sects? Only trash like you would be tempted by them. Feng Qianyu looked at the people behind him who were supporting him. Feng Qianyu, you. Everyone glared at Feng Qianyu. Chapter 6:15. Emperor Mo Ku went back on his word and sent the Bodhisattva of wisdom to eliminate you and the Dai sect. My father sacrificed himself so that the Dai sect could survive until now. Otherwise, the Dai sect would have been destroyed a year ago. Feng Qianyu said bitterly. Everyone thought that I was threatened by the 5 sects? Aha, 5 sects. What are the 5 sects? Only trash like you would be tempted and confused by them. Feng Qianyu looked at the people behind him who were supporting him. Feng Qianyu, you. Everyone stared at Feng Qianyu. Feng Qianyu ignored the people behind him and looked at Yen Chuan. That day the Bodhisattva of wisdom came. The Dai sect was about to be destroyed. My father knew that he couldn't resist, so he pretended to be unyielding and ordered me to compromise in exchange for the Dai sect's survival. One was unyielding and the other was treacherous. Finally, the Bodhisattva of wisdom was fooled. I promised that after killing my father, I would take the position of sect master and trick you into coming back by sacrificing your Tiansu. Then I would catch all of you in one fell swoop. Feng Qianyu said bitterly. No wonder Feng Tairan died so peacefully. Duan Sanshu sighed. So it was Feng Tairan who deliberately set this up to trick the Bodhisattva of wisdom and give the Dai sect a chance to breathe. Gao Bufan also sighed and looked at Feng Tairan. Looking at Feng Tairan lying peacefully in the coffin, everyone looked at Feng Qianyu and understood a lot. Nonsense. Yen Chuan glared. Huh. Everyone looked at Yen Chuan. The Bodhisattva of wisdom did come that day. This group of black-robed people saw it with their own eyes. Feng Qianyu said. I can interrogate them. A Dai sect elder suddenly said. Yen Chuan shook his head and said coldly, I believe that the Bodhisattva of wisdom came. I also believe that the Dai sect was about to be destroyed. I even believe that because of you, Feng Qianyu, the Dai sect was able to survive. I believe that you saved the Dai sect. But Yen Chuan's eyes turned cold. Was it Feng Tairan who ordered you to compromise and kill him? Yen Chuan glared at him. Yen Chuan, what's the meaning of this? Feng Qianyu's eyes turned cold. Saving the Dai sect and deceiving the great wise Bodhisattva. If Feng Tairan was the one who came up with this plan, he wouldn't have given the Tiansu to Mo Wuhui. In comparison, Feng Tairan actually trusts Mo Wu Hui more than you, his son. Yan Chuan's voice turned cold. Immediately, everyone raised their eyebrows as doubts arose in their hearts. Feng Qianyu also looked coldly at Yan Chuan. Yan Chuan said in a deep voice, Feng Qianyu? Although you saved the Dai sect, you killed your father. If you didn't do anything, Feng Tairan might have died in the hands of the wise Bodhisattva, but you still killed Feng Tairan. You still killed your father. Yan Chuan's words were like a sharp knife that stabbed into Feng Tianyu's chest. Ridiculous. It was me. I saved the Dai sect? Without me, the Dai sect would have been destroyed a long time ago. None of them would have survived. Feng Tianyu shouted. Everyone in the Dai sect looked at Feng Tianyu silently, blankly, and angrily. You saved the Dai sect? You were the one who was afraid of death. Yan Chuan shouted again. I didn't do anything wrong. Father also understood what I meant. He agreed with me. Feng Tianyu shouted. He looked coldly at Feng Tianyu. Indeed, Feng Tairan understood your plan in the end. Because of your decision, many people survived. That was why Feng Tairan died peacefully. However, this doesn't change the fact that although Feng Tairan understood you, he didn't order you to kill him. You acted on your own. You killed Feng Tairan. You killed your father. Chapter 6:16. You killed your father. The words struck Feng Tianyu's chest like thousands of lightning bolts. Feng Tianyu couldn't bear it and took a few steps back. Feng Tianyu widened his eyes and looked at Yan Chuan in shock. I saved everyone. I saved the Dai sect. I saved everyone. I'm right. I'm right. Feng Tianyu murmured. The disciples of the Great River sect were all silent. Nobody dared to speak as they had all been dragged into this matter. Yan Chuan stared at Feng Tianyu and said in a deep voice, I said that if you did it, I'll kill you. Ha 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 ha. Feng Tianyu raised his head and laughed sadly. Tears fell from his eyes. Feng Tianyu didn't want to explain anything. There was nothing to explain. This was the truth. Although Feng Tairan understood and the Dai sect was saved, Feng Tianyu still killed his father. Yan Chuan looked at the experts of the Dai sect who had supported Feng Tianyu. Feng Tianyu was a member of the Dai sect, but you betrayed the Dai sect. You should be killed. Yan Chuan stared at them. Boom. The violent sword chi shot at the group of Dai sect traitors. No. We were forced to do this. Help. The cultivators quickly waved their weapons in horror. However, they couldn't resist the sword formation that could even kill an expert of the lower void realm. They died one after another. Help. Jiang Nan pounced on a black-robed man in horror. Get lost. The black-robed man kicked him, but how could Jiang Nan let go? At this moment he would die if he let go. The bloody scene broke out. Yan Chuan looked at the remaining black-robed men again. As for you, Humph. A large amount of sword chi rushed toward the 19 black-robed men. Boom. Under the ferocious sword chi, the group of experts was unable to resist at all. Instantly the sword chi pierced through their bodies, but it didn't take their lives. Buzz. Jiang Nan hugged the black-robed man. Suddenly, golden light shot out in all directions, and a golden lotus appeared beneath the man's feet. The lotus enveloped the black-robed man and Jiang Nan. As for the black-robed man, his entire body was shining with a golden light. It was as if he had turned into a golden man. Swish. The golden lotus enveloped Jiang Nan and the golden man and instantly shot into the sky. Where do you think you're going? Yan Chuan glared at him. Swish. The Jade Emperor's sword shot forward. The golden man's expression changed. He stretched out his hand and urged the golden lotus to resist. The golden lotus suddenly burst out with millions of golden lights. Boom. With a loud crash, the golden lotus shattered, but it did not explode. Boom. The golden man spat out a mouthful of blood. However, taking advantage of this huge force, he still managed to fly out. Swish. In the blink of an eye, he escaped from the sword formation. Yan Chuan, just you wait. I will be back. My master, the great wisdom Bodhisattva, will destroy your body and soul. The golden man roared. Little Arhat, how dare you boast so shamelessly? You think you can escape with your Dharma treasure? Next time, I will use your head as a sacrifice. Yan Chuan shouted coldly. My master will destroy your body and soul. The Arhat flew away and roared in the sky. Tell the great wisdom Bodhisattva that I will be waiting for him here. Yan Chuan glared and his voice traveled far away. An Arhat and Jiang Nan, both of them escaped. The others were all trapped. The black-robed men had their tendons cut off, and many of their acupoints were destroyed. They fell to the ground like a pile of mud. The traitors of the Dai sect were all killed on the spot. The storm of sword energy suddenly disappeared, and the Jade Emperor's sword formation disappeared. The remaining people of the Dai sect all looked at Yan Chuan in shock, especially Zhu Jiansheng. Do you still remember the guy who was at the 3rd level of the power realm a few years ago? No. He killed the emptiness realm expert as if he were slaughtering pigs? The traitors were all killed and only Feng Tianyu was left. Yan Chuan looked at Feng Tianyu coldly. Although you saved the Dai sect, you killed Feng Tyran. I said that I will kill you. I won't do it. Kill yourself. Kill yourself. Everyone's heart skipped a beat. They looked at Feng Tianyu with complicated expressions. They didn't know what to say when Yan Chuan ordered him to kill himself. The 2 elders opened their mouths. They wanted to say something but the words stopped at the tip of their tongues. Ha 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 ha. Feng Tianyu was still laughing sorrowfully. Yan Chuan watched quietly. Feng Tianyu looked at Feng Tyran lying in the coffin, and the sorrowful smile on his face deepened. Father, your son is unfilial. I am here to show my loyalty to you. Feng Tianyu laughed sorrowfully and pulled out his long sword again. He slowly placed the long sword on his neck. Feng Tianyu was ready to kill himself. No, father, no. Suddenly a cry came from behind. His son, Feng Xiao, who was knocked unconscious by Feng Tianyu, ran over from afar. Father, what are you doing? No. Feng Xiao cried and hugged Feng Tianyu. Looking at Feng Xiao, Feng Tianyu was surprised. Why are you awake? Father, I have known about the bastard from back then. I've been working hard. Just last year I reached the Qi state. Father, father. Feng Xiao cried. Good. My son has finally grown up. Aha, my son has finally grown up. Feng Tianyu cried and laughed. Father, what are you doing? What are you doing? Feng Xiao was anxious. Feng Tianyu shook his head. Father has done something wrong. I have to atone for it. No, father. Grandfather is dead. Mother is dead. Father, you can't die. Feng Xiao cried. Feng Tianyu shook his head and looked at Yan Chuan. Yan Chuan, Xiao offended you in the past. I hope you won't. Feng Xiao is young and immature. I can understand. Moreover, he is Feng Tyran's grandson. I will take care of him in the future. I will not make things difficult for him. Yan Chuan said in a deep voice. Although his tone was firm, his eyes were still cold. Clearly, Feng Tianyu must die today. Ah, good. My father believes you. I also believe you. Xiao, listen to Yan Chuan in the future. Feng Tianyu laughed. No, father. I will only listen to you. Father. Feng Xiao wanted to snatch Feng Tianyu's sword. Bang. Feng Tianyu forced Feng Xiao away. Father. Feng Xiao wanted to rush over, but at this moment, a wall of qi blocked him. Xiao, don't follow your father's example. Feng Tianyu smiled sadly and wiped the sword in his hand. Boom. Feng Tianyu's head was cut in half. Clang. Plop. The long sword fell and Feng Tianyu fell into a pool of blood. Father. Feng Xiao cried and rushed over. Yan Chuan took a deep breath and sighed. In the main hall, the other people of the Dai sect watched Feng Tianyu kill himself and sighed. A gentle breeze blew and the danger of the great river was resolved. However, at this moment no one could laugh. Almost everyone was immersed in grief. A gentle breeze blew through the collapsed Dai hall. Other than sighs, there was also the sound of Feng Xiao crying. Chapter 617. Carefree City. Spears shot out in all directions from the sky. Like pillars that supported the heavens, they shot toward the emptiness realm. Old man, boom. 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 The two of them fought each other and strong winds blew in the sky. Impossible, you are only at God realm, you are only at stage 1 of God realm. The old man's robe was in tatters and he exclaimed. The more Huaguang fought, the fiercer he became. Astral powers surrounded the old man and forced him to retreat. On the other side, the Azure Dragon made a move. Moe and the other God realm experts were soon severely injured and captured. On the floating island, Qinglong returned to Yifeng's side. As for the group of deity realm experts, they were crippled by Qinglong and thrown to a group of generals to guard. Moe raised his head and sighed. How could this be? How could this be? Sect leader Moe looked around in disbelief. When he came, how could he have expected such an outcome? The 5 sects were completely annihilated? 8,000 disciples were all killed? Even the elders of the lower void stage were being suppressed at this moment. It was unrealistic. It was like a dream. Piercing heaven's spear. Huaguang shouted. Hong? The long sword in the lower void stage old man's hand exploded with a bang, and Huoguang's spear pierced into the old man's chest with a bang. With a shake, a heaven-overflowing sound was released. That elder's chest exploded and blood shot out in all directions. No, no. The old man was terrified. Carrying his heavily injured body, he fled in a certain direction. Close the city gates. Activate the formation. Huoguang shouted. Boom. The 4 city gates slammed shut. Within the worry-free city, an array formation was activated. A series of barriers blocked the old man's path. Bastard. Boom. The old man broke through the first layer of the barrier, but what greeted him was the second and then the third. If the old man was at his peak, he could easily break through the barrier. But now the old man was extremely weak. Breaking through one layer was already difficult, let alone breaking through more. Piercing heaven's spear. Huoguang shouted again. No. Hong. The old man's head exploded. A lower void stage expert had fallen in front of everyone. My lord is invincible. My lord is invincible. My lord is invincible. The cheers of 100,000 soldiers could be heard from below. At this moment, many people understood the old man's cultivation level. He was at the lower emptiness realm, he was at the emptiness realm. How could he be killed by their lord? Huoguang was too ferocious. The general was the soul of an army. If the general was fierce, the army would flourish. The army of 100,000 roared, and the countless commoners in the city were also very excited. On the floating island, Moyi's mouth was agape, and his entire body was in a daze. His last glimmer of hope was completely extinguished. Yifeng sighed as he looked up at the sky. What a fierce general. Qing Long's expression was extremely complicated. Was this still the same Huoguang that he could kill with a single breath back then? Huoguang was covered in blood, but he was more excited than anything else. He slowly flew to the floating island. Carefree City's crisis had been completely resolved. Day sect in front of Yen Tao's grave. Yen Chuan buried Mo Wuhui's grave beside his father's. Zhu Jiansheng knelt in front of Mo Wuhui's grave, and his face was filled with sorrow. Looking at the grave in front of him, Yen Chuan sighed softly. At this moment, a figure flew over from behind. It was Gao Bufan's disciple, the 3rd swordsman of the 7 swordsmen. Martial uncle Feng Xiao refused to stay. He wants to leave. The 3rd swordsman said with a complicated expression. Refused to stay? Yen Chuan frowned. Yes, he buried Feng Tianyu's corpse beside Feng Tyran's grave. After kowtowing, he bid farewell to everyone and left. He should be at the entrance of the sect now. The 3rd swordsman said with a complicated expression. Chapter 6:18. Yen Chuan closed his eyes and pondered for a while. He took a deep breath and said, "Let him go." The 3 swordsmen nodded. At the entrance of the Day sect, Feng Xiao carried a long sword on his back. He walked to the entrance and suddenly stopped. Feng Xiao turned his head and looked at the mountains behind him. For a moment, his eyes were misty. In the past, he was the playboy of the Day sect. Although he had done a lot of bad things, he still had the love of his grandfather and father. Now his grandfather and father were dead. In the past few days, Feng Xiao had understood everything. However, Feng Xiao still couldn't let it go. He didn't even want to believe it. Xiao, don't follow your father's example. These were Feng Tianyu's last words before his death, and they reverberated in his mind like a drum. Xiao, don't follow your father's example. Xiao, don't follow your father's example. Feng Xiao knelt down in front of Feng Tyran and Feng Tianyu's graves. Thump. 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 He kowtowed 9 times in a row. He stood up and sniffled. Grandpa Dad, don't worry. I won't let you down. Feng Xiao bit his lips and said. Feng Xiao wiped his tears and rushed out of the gate. He didn't look back. At the top of a mountain, Gao Bufan, Duan Sanshu and the other immortal state warriors sighed. After watching Feng Xiao leave, Gao Bufan said, "Let's go to Yen Chuan's grave." Everyone nodded. They came to Yen Tao's grave. Zhu Jiansheng was in a better mood now. He stood up. Yen Chuan was surrounded by a group of Qi state warriors. Gao Bufan, Duan Sanshu, 2 emptiness realm elders of the Day sect, 2 immortal state warriors, and more than a dozen Qi state warriors. 2 elders. Everyone. Yen Chuan took a deep breath and said. Yen Chuan, what do you plan to do? Gao Bufan asked. Since all of you have come here, you obviously have a plan. What are your plans? Yen Chuan looked at the crowd. Gao Bufan smiled bitterly and said, the Day sect has already disbanded. Moreover, being targeted by the heavenly prince Imoku, it will be a disaster sooner or later. The two elders have also agreed. The Day sect will be disbanded. Disband? Yen Chuan frowned as he looked at everyone. Back then my grandfather founded the Day sect. I didn't expect that I would witness its dissolution. The Day sect has been dissolved. I have refined 9 tokens. We 2 are in the virtual realm, Gao Bufan, and the other 4 are in the divine realm. Feng Xiao and you each take 1. The elder of the Day sect handed over a token. It was a square-shaped token with the word river engraved on it. Although the Day sect has been disbanded, the 9 of us were once part of the same sect. If it's within our power, we should help each other. The elder said. Yen Chuan nodded. Yen Chuan, what about you? Gao Bufan looked at Yen Chuan. I plan to establish a celestial kingdom. Yen Chuan said. Kingdom? Everyone was surprised. Yes, a kingdom. Perhaps you don't think much of a kingdom, but I believe that under my creation sooner or later, it will be famous all over the world. Yen Chuan said with certainty. Everyone looked at Yen Chuan strangely, but in the end they did not refute. After all, at this point there was no point in making any more suggestions. My kingdom accepts all the talents in the world. Are you willing to join my kingdom? Yen Chuan issued an invitation. Gao Bufan and the other divine realm experts frowned slightly, but the 7 swordsmen Zhu Jiansheng and the others were eager to give it a try. Chapter 619. The 2 elders of the virtual realm smiled and shook their heads gently. Gao Bufan looked at each other and finally shook his head. No. May your celestial kingdom grow stronger. All the immortal state warriors nodded. Yen Chuan smiled and said, I know that you don't want to be bound by my celestial kingdom, so I won't force you. However, if the disciples of the Day sect below the Qi state are willing to do so, please don't stop them. Gao Bufan was surprised and then looked at his 7 disciples. You 7 want to stay? Gao Bufan was confused. The 7 swordsmen looked at Gao Bufan with a complicated expression and then looked at the great swordsman. Master, you will always be our master. However, at this moment we want to follow martial uncle and see the so-called celestial kingdom. The great swordsman said seriously. Ah, good, then you can stay. Gao Bufan was also free and easy. Zhu Jiansheng, 7 swordsmen, tell all the disciples of the Day sect my idea. Those who want to stay, wait for me at the square below the main peak. Those who don't want to stay, give them 10 years of spirit stones and let them find their own way out. Yen Chuan took a deep breath and said. Yes. The 8 of them answered. In that case we will meet again. Gao Bufan said solemnly. See you? Yen Chuan nodded. The immortal state warriors and virtual realm warriors of the Day sect left with the disciples who were willing to follow. Zhu Jiansheng and the 7 swordsmen also dismissed a large number of disciples. When Yen Chuan arrived at the square below the main peak, there were only 1,000 disciples. Most of them were in the Qi state and there were about 30 of them in the Qi state. They all bowed to Yen Chuan solemnly. I am very gratified that all of you are willing to stay behind and help me. I'm sure all of you have seen the world of mortals before and know what a country is. I Yen Chuan do not wish to say too much. Since all of you have decided to stay behind, you will have to abide by all the laws and regulations of the celestial nation. Yes. Everyone answered. Activate the Day sect's grand formation. After a while I will send an army to guard it. All of you will be under Yifeng's command and will be under Yifeng's command. Yen Chuan said seriously. Zhu Jiansheng, the 7 swordsmen, and the others were slightly disappointed when they saw that they were not with Yen Chuan. However, they still took a deep breath and said solemnly, yes. Yen Chuan nodded. At this moment, there was a slight movement in Yen Chuan's arms. Miao poked her head out from Yen Chuan's arms. Miao, how long have I slept? Miao rubbed its sleepy eyes. With a smile, Yen Chuan lifted Miao onto his shoulder. Zhu Jiansheng, take the others and stand guard here. The 7 swordsmen take care of the black-robed men. We will go to Carefree City first. Yen Chuan said. Yes. A few days later, Carefree City, City Lord Manor, King of Hell's Palace. The main hall was tightly shut. Only Yen Chuan was in the hall. Even Miao had been chased out of the hall. On the table in front of him, there was a God bestowment strategy and a Tian Su. On the God bestowment strategy there were the words Yen Chuan. On the Tian Su, there was only the word Yen. He waved his hand at the Tian Su. Rumble. A series of muffled sounds came from the Tian Su. Suddenly, beside the word Yen, there was an additional word Chuan. Originally, I only needed an ordinary Tiansu. I only needed to find a lower-level sect to get it. Who would have thought that the final Tiansu would come from the Dai sect? Yen Chuan revealed a bitter smile. He held the God Bestowment strategy in one hand and the Tiansu in the other. His eyes gradually became serious. The God Bestowment strategy will devour the Tiansu and use it to perfect itself. It will then condense the investiture of the gods. Let's start devouring. Yen Chuan's hands slowly moved closer. Chapter 620. Yen Chuan activated the God Bestowment strategy with one hand. The fortune on the God Bestowment strategy churned, and a golden dragon of fortune floated up and down. It emitted a dazzling golden light. With the other hand he activated the Tiansu. The merit on the Tiansu churned, forming a vortex that emitted a bright yellow light. One was golden and the other was yellow. The two colors were similar. However, the yellow of fortune was more gorgeous and noble, while the yellow of the Tiansu was more stable. The God Bestowment strategy approached the Tiansu. The two slowly touched. Rumble. The golden light and the yellow light seemed to be conflicting with each other, as if they were suppressing each other. The Tiansu wants to devour the God Bestowment strategy? Even if it has accumulated 100 years of merit, the fortune of the God Bestowment strategy has taken a quarter of the Julu academies. Impossible. Yen Chuan said in a deep voice. Roar. The golden dragon of fortune in the God Bestowment strategy roared. Boom. The golden light completely suppressed the yellow light. The God Bestowment strategy rumbled like war drums. Endless fortune quickly wrapped around the Tiansu, bit by bit, completely enveloping the Tiansu. The Tiansu emitted a yellow light, but at this moment, it seemed to be struggling bitterly. Rumble. The Tiansu completely melted into the God Bestowment strategy. At this moment, the God Bestowment strategy was also distorted, as if the whole page had expanded. It was even wider. On the back of the God Bestowment strategy, the three words, God Bestowment strategy, were also distorted. On the front, the golden dragon of fortune suddenly seemed to have melted. It seemed to have melted. The golden dragon of fortune melted, and the God Bestowment strategy became illusory. Yen Chuan waited patiently. A full 2 hours passed. Roar. Suddenly, a dragon's roar came from the front of the God Bestowment scroll. A golden dragon condensed from the boundless destiny. The golden dragon instantly absorbed 80% of the destiny. This new golden dragon of providence was even more lofty and majestic than before. The dragon's head was larger and the dragon's eyes were more condensed. Even the dragon's horns were more than twice the size of the golden dragon of providence. This is my golden dragon. Yen Chuan took a deep breath and said with satisfaction. On the back of the God investiture strategy, the three words twisted for a while before slowly turning into the words investiture of the gods. The God investiture strategy states that one can only fight for the providence of other countries or cultivate one's own providence. But the investiture of the gods was different. After devouring Tiansu, not only could the investiture of the gods seize the providence of other nations, it could also seize the merit of other sects and convert it into providence. The investiture of the gods is about to be completed. Yen Chuan sighed emotionally. Sighing, he placed the investiture of the gods on the table. He reached out his hand and took out a black royal seal. There were 2 golden spots on the black royal seal. 9 black dragons suddenly appeared on the royal seal. The 9 dragons roared ferociously as if they were fighting for a golden pearl. The other golden spot was at the bottom of the royal seal, where there were 8 words. The words were written in a boundless and domineering manner. Ordained by the heavens, live long and prosper. This was obtained from the undying Holy Land. Before the Dark Phoenix died, she gave it to Yen Chuan. It was the great mystic yellow universal jade. The jade was black and yellow. At this moment, it had already been refined by Yen Chuan. The black color was the body and the golden color was the essence. The 9 dragons seized the pearl and turned into Yen Chuan's royal seal. The words, ordained by the heavens, live long and prosper. It stated the location of the royal seal. Holding the royal seal, Yen Chuan pressed it against the investiture of the gods. Boom. The royal seal imprinted on the investiture of the gods, and the boundless providence surged as if it was resisting the royal seal. Brr. The golden dragon of providence roared non-stop. Chapter 621. Yen Chuan glared. The great stabilizing heavenly seal represents me. The seal will be honored. Do not resist. Roar. The golden dragon of providence let out a long roar and slowly sank into the providence. The boundless providence circled around the great stabilizing heavenly seal for a while before finally submitting. Whoosh. When Shao Qin removed the imperial seal, 8 golden words appeared on the God investiture decree. Receiving the mandate of heaven, long life and prosperity. The 8 golden words seemed to contain great might, suppressing the boundless providence. A portion of the providence on the God investiture decree followed the 8 words and strangely appeared on the imperial seal. At this point, the nation's providence will refine my great stabilizing heavenly seal. The great stabilizing heavenly seal will not leak the nation's providence. Yan Chuan said seriously. Brr. The golden dragon of providence on the God investiture decree let out a long roar as if following Yan Chuan's orders. At this point, the God investiture decree was completed. The great stabilizing heavenly seal could also enjoy the nourishment of the nation's providence through the God investiture decree. After putting away the great stabilizing heavenly seal, Yan Chuan looked at the God investiture decree again. The beginning of the imperial edict, the God investiture decree. Everything is ready. Prepare to establish the nation. Yan Chuan put away the God investiture decree in satisfaction. After doing all this, Yan Chuan walked to the door. Creak. The door to the hall suddenly opened. Outside the hall, Miao immediately rushed over. Miao. Yan Chuan, what are you doing inside? Miao asked curiously. Preparing something. Yan Chuan smiled and did not explain. At this moment in the plaza in front of King Yama's palace, Lu Jin, Hua Guang, Yi Feng, Lu Gang and the others stood respectfully. There were also 10 odd generals. Greetings, my king. Everyone said respectfully. Lu Jin, Hua Guang, it has been hard on you all these years. Yan Chuan said with a smile. This is what we should do. Lu Jin and Hua Guang immediately shouted. Lu Gang. Yan Chuan looked at Lu Gang. I pay my respects to the King of Hell. Lu Gang stepped forward in an extremely respectful manner with an excited expression on his face. You did well in Carefree City's counterattack. Yan Chuan praised. You're too polite, King of Hell. Lu Gang immediately replied humbly. How's the thing I asked you to do coming along? Yan Chuan looked at Lu Gang. Lu Gang understood that when Yan Chuan asked him to do things, he was also testing him. Therefore, Lu Gang was extremely diligent these days. King of Hell, the immortal state experts of the 10 sects have all confessed. The 10 sects are the Clear Lake sect, the Bright Moon sect. They are all under the command of the Great Winged Heaven School. In the past, hundreds of sects besieged the Day sect and forced the old King of Hell to his death. Lu Gang said respectfully. Yan Chuan nodded. This time the 10 sects were almost in full strength. Almost all of the immortal state and emptiness realm experts were involved. However, they were all taken down by the King of Hell. Lu Gang said respectfully. That's good. Yan Chuan nodded. Hua Guang. Yan Chuan looked at Hua Guang. Yes, King of Hell. Hua Guang immediately stepped forward. You are to lead the 60,000 troops to annihilate the 10 sections. Set out in 2 days. Yan Chuan said in a deep voice. Yes, King of Hell. Hua Guang said solemnly. Yi Feng. Yan Chuan looked at Yi Feng. Yes, King of Hell. Yi Feng stepped forward. Have the disciples of the Day sect reported to you? Yan Chuan looked at Yi Feng. Yes, they have all paid their respects to me. Yi Feng said solemnly. With them as the foundation, form the 2nd Legion. Yi Feng will be the commander of the 2nd Legion. Yan Chuan said solemnly. Yes, commander of the 2nd Legion Yi Feng, pays his respects to King of Hell. Yi Feng bowed solemnly. Thus the 2nd Legion was formed. Congratulations, Mr. Yi. No, congratulations, Commander Yi. Hua Guang said with a smile. Everyone congratulated him. Lu Gang's eyes were filled with eagerness. Chapter 622. Yan Chuan looked at Lu Gang and said, Lu Gang, what are your plans? King of Hell, my master knows that he was in the wrong this time and has already returned with a large number of disciples. I have already obtained my master's permission to bring a group of brothers here. I am willing to serve King of Hell. I only hope that King of Hell will not despise my poor constitution. Lu Gang said cautiously. Yan Chuan stared at Lu Gang, the past information flashing through his mind. Lu Gang did not dare to speak and waited respectfully for Yan Chuan. After looking for a while, Yan Chuan nodded and smiled. Constitution? As long as you really make contributions, there will be a large amount of resources allocated to you. Since that is the case, follow me for the time being. Meh. Yin Chuan only said this to two types of people. One was his enemies and the other was his subjects. Yin Chuan said me to Lu Gang, indicating that he had already acknowledged Lu Gang. Thank you, my king. Lu Gang immediately said excitedly. Wo Guang, go prepare the troops. The others follow me back to Yanjing. Yin Chuan took a deep breath and said, yes. Yanjing outside the palace. The morning fog was thick. Visibility was extremely low. A large number of guards were stationed at the palace gates. Even though the fog was thick, they still scrupulously observed their duties. Suddenly, a dozen figures walked over from afar. How dare you, who are you? How dare you barge into the palace? A guard shouted angrily. Ka. One by one they pointed their spears at the approaching people. When the person approached, the leading guard's expression suddenly changed. Emperor equal to the emperor? The guard exclaimed. Greetings, Emperor equal to the emperor. The guard leader bowed respectfully. Greetings, Emperor equal to the emperor. All the guards knelt down. Go inform Yen Chuyu, tell him that I am waiting for him in the imperial court. Yen Chuan said lightly. With that, Yen Chuan walked towards the inner part of the imperial city. A group of guards reached out to stop him, but after thinking about it, no one made a move. Yes. The guard replied respectfully. Also, have Yen Chuyu inform the officials of the Yen state to come to the imperial court for a court meeting. Yen Chuan suddenly turned his head and said calmly. Yes. The guard replied respectfully. Yen Chuan led Yi Feng, Qing Long, and some other generals through the imperial city. With Yen Chuan's status and prestige, none of the guards dared to stop them. Beijing drill ground. Yen Chuyu held a staff in her hand and was surrounded by about 100 soldiers. Boom. Yen Chuyu shattered several stone slabs with a stomp and swung her staff at the soldiers. Brr. A group of soldiers rushed over. Boom. 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 After a series of attacks, hundreds of soldiers fell to the ground. Yen Chuyu, who was standing in the center of the soldiers, couldn't hide the excitement on her face. Essence Realm, haha, we have also reached the Essence Realm. Yen Chuyu shouted excitedly. Congratulations, Your Majesty, for reaching the Essence Realm. You have become an immortal cultivator. The soldiers congratulated her. Yen Chuyu nodded in satisfaction. Her eyes shone brightly as if she was thinking about the future, about her immortality. At that moment, the guard from before rushed over. Your Majesty, the Emperor equal is back. The guard said respectfully. Yen Chuyu raised her eyebrows. The Emperor equal said that he is waiting for Your Majesty in the imperial court. Also, Your Majesty, please gather the officials for a court meeting. The guard said respectfully. He is back. This day has finally come. Yen Chuyu frowned and her face darkened. The surrounding soldiers didn't dare to say anything and waited for Yen Chuyu to make a decision. Yen Chuyu took a deep breath and suppressed all the thoughts in her mind. She said in a deep voice, change clothes and inform the officials for a court meeting. Yes. An old eunuch beside her nodded. Chapter 623. Yen State's Imperial Hall. Outside the hall, Yen Chuyu rushed over with a group of guards. However, when they reached the hall's entrance, they realized that the guards had all retreated. Your Majesty, the Emperor equals is in the hall. He asked us to leave. One of the guards stepped forward and reported. Yen Chuyu looked at the hall and frowned. She nodded. All of you wait outside. When the officials arrive, wait outside. Yen Chuyu took a deep breath and ordered. Yes. All the guards nodded. Alone, Yen Chuyu walked towards the royal court hall and entered it. Once she entered the hall, Yen Chuyu raised her eyebrows. In the hall, Yi Feng and a dozen others stood respectfully on both sides of the hall. Yen Chuan was sitting on his dragon throne. On the armrest, a little cat was walking around. Yen Chuan seemed to be sitting on the throne, playing with the little cat. Waiting for me? Dragon throne? Is that the throne that belongs to me? Yen Chuyu felt an inexplicable anger in her heart. On the throne, Yen Chuan also noticed Yen Chuyu and turned to look at her. Emperor equals. Yen Chuyu took a deep breath and suppressed the anger in her heart. She took a step forward and said, Essence State? Yen Chuyu, congratulations. Yen Chuan smiled faintly. Yen Chuyu walked forward. In the hall, no one said a word. You're back? What's your plan? Yen Chuyu asked in a low voice. Looking at Yen Chuyu's expression, Yen Chuan naturally understood her state of mind. Who would be willing to give up the throne as an emperor? Even in front of immortality there would be worries. However, this time he had to settle everything properly. I'm back. It's time for me to take back my things. Yen Chuan said indifferently. I heard that you're the peak master of the Day sect. It's only a matter of time before you become a sect master. What? Why do you want to inherit the Yen state? Yen Chuyu frowned. Yen Chuan looked at Yen Chuyu and said indifferently, Why? I can't inherit the Yen state? Yen Chuyu's face stiffened. She shook her head and said, That's not what I meant. I just don't understand why you would give up such a great path to immortality. Great immortal path? Haha, I don't need you to teach me my path. Yen Chuyu, it's time to fulfill your promise. The Yen state belongs to my father. It's only right that we take it back. Also, you promised me that day. That's why I used a lot of resources to help you reach the Essence Realm and then the Qi Realm. Yen Chuan took a deep breath. Yen Chuyu had a complicated expression on her face. All right. Yen Chuyu took a deep breath and nodded. Although she was struggling in her heart, Yen Chuyu wanted longevity more than anything else. Yen Chuan nodded. I have already ordered someone to write the declaration of abdication. Just stamp it with your seal and announce it to the entire Yen state. Lu Jin immediately took out an imperial edict from the Yen state. Everything was written on it. Hand it over. Yen Chuyu frowned as she looked at the imperial edict. She looked at Yen Chuan and sighed in her heart. The imperial seal was placed on the dragon table. Yen Chuyu picked it up, dipped it in ink and looked at the imperial edict. She was reluctant and unwilling, but she stamped it. Dong. The imperial edict took effect as soon as the seal was stamped. Yen Chuan took a deep breath and stood up. He said solemnly, Yen Chuyu, the Yen state won't be able to unleash much of its power in your hands. It will only be able to unleash its power in my hands. Apart from the Yen state, Zheng state in the south and Zhao state in the east will soon become my territory. Yen Chuyu was shocked. Zheng state? Zhao state? Chapter 624. You are a descendant of the Yen clan. When I establish the country I will confer you a title. Yen Chuan promised solemnly. Yen Chuyu nodded. After chatting for a while, they allowed the officials to enter the hall. As soon as the officials entered the hall, they were greeted by a surprising sight. The one sitting on the throne was not Yen Chuyu. How dare you? One of the officials exclaimed. Emperor equal to the emperor? Your Majesty? The officials were thrown into chaos. Yen Chuyu took a step forward and said solemnly, Everyone from today onwards, don't call me Your Majesty. The officials were surprised. Emperor equal to the emperor, who has both integrity and talent, surpasses me. From today onwards, announce to the world that I will abdicate the throne to Yen Chuan. Yen Chuyu said solemnly. What? No. Abdicate? How can you treat a matter of national importance like this? Your Majesty? No. The group of old officials exclaimed in shock. However, nearly half of the civil and military officials suddenly bowed to Yen Chuan. Long live the emperor! Long live the emperor! Half of the officials suddenly bowed to Yen Chuan. At the side, Yifeng smiled faintly. Many of the people here were actually Yifeng's students. Before Yen Chuan went to the cultivation world, he had already made arrangements. Naturally, Yifeng had made arrangements long ago. Bastard Minister of Rights, you. Minister of Works? You actually... The officials looked at the officials bowing to Yen Chuan in shock and anger. As for Yen Chuyu, when she saw nearly half of the officials bowing to Yen Chuan, she understood everything and smiled bitterly. At this point, the news of Yen Emperor's abdication spread to all the cities in the world. The people of the Great Yen were confused. However, comparatively speaking, the prestige of the emperor equal to the emperor was even higher. It had protected the Great Yen state for 300 years, and a few years ago, it had displayed its prowess by defeating 5 dynasties. 3,000 soldiers of the Embroidered Cloak Army had marched straight into the capital of 3 dynasties and wiped them out. Since then, the territory of Yen state had been expanding. Although there were a few objections from all sides, Yifeng had already made arrangements. Everything was proceeding in an orderly manner. The ruler of the Yen state was now Yen Chuan. Zheng. Lu Gang landed in the Zheng Imperial Palace with 30 cultivators. All of King Wild's descendants glared at Lu Gang. This is Master's order. Why aren't you following it? Lu Gang said solemnly. The Zheng Emperor looked at Lu Gang with a complicated expression. Emperor Zheng, you will know Master's plans in the future. Let go, the state of Zheng cannot exist anymore. Lu Gang shook his head and advised. Why did Ancestor give such an order? The entire Zheng state surrendered to the Yan state? What? What? The Zheng emperor was indignant. Not the Yan state but the emperor equal to the Yan state, Yan Xuan. Lu Gang corrected. The Zheng emperor's expression was ugly. The princes behind him also glared at Lu Gang. Lu Gang ignored their gazes and looked at the Zheng emperor. Emperor Zheng, you are all master's descendants. I don't want to use other methods, but if you insist on pestering me, I will not show mercy. Make your decision. Lu Gang said coldly. The Zheng emperor looked at Lu Gang with a bitter smile. Your Majesty, please don't. Father, please don't. Everyone was indignant, but the Zheng emperor took a few deep breaths and nodded. All right, I agree. Chapter 625. Thank you, Emperor Zheng. Lu Gang said. But what about the royal bloodline? Emperor Zheng asked. Haha, don't worry, Emperor Zheng. I've already discussed this with my master. All the royal descendants will move to the demon-controlling sect and receive guidance from the Immortal sect. This will help all of you embark on the path of immortality. Lu Gang smiled. Ah, really? Immortal cultivation? Our ancestor is finally willing to let us go? The anger of the royal descendants dissipated. Their eyes were filled with longing. Of course. Lu Gang nodded and smiled. Only Emperor Zheng knew that cultivation was not that easy. Zhao country. The Zhao family, a large family in Yan state, had betrayed the Yan state and established a country in the east of the Yan state. The head of the Zhao family, Zhao Tianwang. He was standing in front of the court. 100,000 soldiers from Zhao country were gathered around the palace, protecting it. Opposite them was Zhu Jiansheng, the former head of the Dai sect. Zhu Jiansheng led 10,000 soldiers and looked coldly at the palace. Zhu Jiansheng's army was not an ordinary army. Even the weakest of them was in the Essence realm. General Zhang, I'm in the 2nd Legion. These 10,000 soldiers belong to Huo Guang's 1st Legion. Although there are 2 legions, they both work for the Emperor. This time. Zhu Jiansheng said. Ah, don't worry. I know what to do. Tell me, what should we do? General Zhang said politely. Lord Yi has already arranged for disciples to be stationed in the various cities of the state of Zhao. As long as the Zhao family is destroyed, Lord Yi will be able to quickly gather the various cities and destroy the Zhao family. Zhu Jiansheng said gravely. Okay. General Zhang nodded. In the palace, Zhao Tianwang looked anxious. I'm Xingkuan Kuroha's disciple from the Great Winged Heaven School. Who dares to come here? Zhao Tianwang shouted angrily. Zhu Jiansheng's eyes lit up. General Zhang, capture him alive. Zhu Jiansheng said with a smile. Okay. General Zhang nodded. With a wave of his hand, the 10,000-strong army roared and charged toward the imperial palace with their spears raised. Kill? The state of Zhao had 100,000 soldiers. Although there were many of them, how could they compare to the 1st Legion that was armed with magical weapons? Kill. Today the state of Zhao will be erased from this world. Beijing. At this moment, earth-shattering changes were taking place. After Yan Emperor abdicated the throne, the lord of the imperial palace naturally became Yan Xuan. With Yan Xuan's order, the imperial palace underwent major changes. Many places were razed to the ground, and large-scale construction was carried out to build a vast imperial city. As for the people in Beijing, they were being moved out of Beijing. A large number of cultivators were building more suitable places for them to live. Although the people had some complaints when they saw that the deities were helping to build houses, and the houses were much more beautiful and grand than before, they gradually felt relieved. Of course, more importantly, after Yan Xuan took control of the Yan state, he distributed a large number of cultivation techniques. Any one of these techniques was enough to make the Jianghu go crazy in the past. But now they were like cabbages growing in large swathes. The path of immortal cultivation? Yan Xuan had brought the path of immortal cultivation to the Yan state. At this moment, no one had any complaints and everyone was grateful. As the construction of the imperial palace was going on, Yan Xuan brought Yi Feng, Qing Long and Yi Feng's grandson, Yi Lin to a high place and looked at the grand scene in front of them. Your Majesty, when Feng Yinyang was living in Beijing, there were continuous roars around the city, as if there was an earthquake, but we still can't find his location. Yi Lin said respectfully. That's the dragon vein of the earth. Feng Yinyang is from the Gale Navy. He followed my request and attracted at least 100 dragon veins from all directions. After a while, on the 9th day of the 9th lunar month, the 100 Dragons Pilgrimage, this feng shui array will be displayed in front of everyone. Yin Chuan nodded. Qinglong, according to what you know, what about the Great Winged Heaven School? Yin Chuan asked. Qinglong thought for a while and said, the Great Winged Heaven School is east of here, east of the sea. It's a middle-level sect with 100 lower-level sects under it. It was strong in the past, but in Shinkuan Kuroha's generation, it has declined. The world is divided into 5 continents: East Divine Continent, South Divine Continent, West Divine Continent, North Divine Continent, and Middle Divine Continent. We live in the East Divine Continent, and there's only one upper-level sect there, the Great Sacred Ground. Then there are 24 middle-level sections. The Great Winged Heaven School is ranked last among the 24 middle-level sects. Qinglong said. Last? Yin Chuan said in a low voice. Yes, at the very bottom. But even at the very bottom, it's not something that a lower-level sect can compare to. Azure Dragon nodded. Chapter 626. Qinglong nodded. Yes, at the very bottom. But even at the very bottom, it's not something that a lower-level sect can compare with. Yin Chuan nodded. Yifeng took a deep breath and said, Your Majesty, the founding of the country is imminent. I am worried that the Great Winged Heaven School will cause trouble during this period of time. Don't worry. There are a lot of arrays around Yin Chuan. Nothing serious will happen. But after the founding of the country... Yin Chuan's eyes turned cold. After the founding of the country? Wang Yao wants to send troops to the Great Winged Heaven School? Yifeng's expression changed. That's right. A middle-level sect and 100 lower-level sects besieged the Day sect and forced my parents to their deaths. This hatred must be avenged. Moreover, in order to take root here as soon as possible, we must quickly annihilate these 100 sects in one fell swoop. That's the only way to intimidate the rascals. Yin Chuan said solemnly. Yes. Yifeng nodded. What? Prince Yin, you want to destroy the Great Winged Heaven School and numerous sects? How is this possible? There are more than 100,000 disciples in the Great Winged Heaven School, and there are hundreds of thousands of disciples in the 100 sects. Furthermore, all of them have high cultivation bases. How is it possible for you? Qinglong said in surprise. The power of a middle-level sect was extremely terrifying. How could a newly established country compare to a middle-level sect? Hundreds of thousands? My army is larger than his. Isn't that enough? Yin Chuan said with a smile. Qinglong was puzzled. Yin Chuan took a deep breath and said, The First Legion has 100,000 soldiers. I had Hua Guang take 60,000 to encircle the 10 great sects. Another 40,000 soldiers, 10,000 to guard Worry-Free City, 10,000 to guard the former Day sect, 10,000 to follow Zhujiansheng to exterminate the state of Zhao, and they will return soon. The last 10,000 will be handed over to you, Yifeng. In the remaining time, Qinglong will bring you around the various major cities. The major cities? What for? Qinglong was puzzled. Recruiting. Yin Chuan laughed. Another mercenary? Qinglong's expression suddenly changed. That's right. My celestial empire is a place where all rivers flow into the sea. When nurturing our own talents, we will also need to take in the experts from all directions. Yifeng, I will have to trouble you from now on. Screening the soldiers will be a complicated process. Yin Chuan took a deep breath and looked at Yifeng. Your Majesty, don't worry. However, how many soldiers do you need? Yifeng asked. 1,000,000-strong army. Yin Chuan took a deep breath. 1,000,000? Qinglong exclaimed. Prince Yin, are you sure about the 1,000,000-man army? Qinglong sucked in a deep breath. How many spirit stones would it take to support a 1,000,000-strong army? Spirit stones? Didn't Hua Guang go to collect them? Yin Chuan laughed. With a 1,000,000-strong army, wouldn't there be more spirit stones to destroy the Great Winged Heaven School? Yin Chuan laughed. Yin Chuan took a deep breath and said, Also, during this trip, remember to announce the founding of my empire to everyone. 1 month later. Yanjing. The citizens of Yanjing moved out, and the surrounding areas were filled with construction. The imperial palace was built by the cultivators of Carefree City, and huge palaces quickly appeared. In front of the largest palace in the imperial palace, Yin Chuan watched as a large number of cultivators retreated, and a dazzling golden palace hall appeared. The palace was 100 feet tall, and it was the largest palace in Yanjing. Yin Chuan stood in front of the palace with Lu Gang and looked at the majestic palace. What a huge palace. Your Majesty, Is this the future imperial palace? Lu Gang exclaimed. That's right. Yan Chuan nodded. What is the name of this palace? Lu Gang asked. At this moment, several soldiers came over carrying a huge signboard. On the plaque, there were 3 large golden words that radiated in all directions. Chapter 627. The 3 words contained an aura that could swallow mountains and rivers. Looking at it from afar, it was intimidating. Sky-facing hall. Lu Gang took a deep breath and recited. This is the king's calligraphy? Lu Gang exclaimed. And? Yan Chuan nodded. The king's calligraphy is invincible. Lu Gang praised. Yan Chuan smiled faintly as he watched the soldiers hang up the plaque in the hall. Lu Gang. Yan Chuan called out. This subject is here. Lu Gang replied respectfully. Do you know about Yifeng's trip? Yan Chuan asked. This subject knows. He is going to recruit soldiers for the king. Lu Gang nodded. What do you think? Yan Chuan asked. Lord Huaguang, the First Legion has 100,000 soldiers and they have been working together for many years. Furthermore, they are all cultivators from Carefree City and we know them well. However, great scholar Yifeng is going to recruit 1 million soldiers. This subject is worried that it will be difficult for them to be loyal to the king in a short period of time. Lu Gang said solemnly. That's right. It's not just the 1,000,000-strong army but also the officials. In fact, many people will join our dynasty in the upcoming imperial examinations. I can give them power but there might be spies from the sects. Yan Chuan said solemnly. Yes, does the king have any plans? Lu Gang asked curiously. We plan to set up a factory. Yan Chuan said. Factory? It will only be responsible to us. It will monitor the officials internally and the world externally. Yan Chuan said coldly. Lu Gang was suddenly enlightened. In an instant he understood the factory that Yan Chuan had mentioned. Supervising the officials? Monitor the world? This was a special organization and also an intelligence organization. Lu Gang's heart started to beat rapidly. Why did the king say this to him? It will be called Eastern Intelligence Bureau. We want you to take up the position of governor. Yan Chuan said. Dong. Lu Gang immediately knelt down and said excitedly, Rest assured, Your Majesty. I will do my best to repay Your Majesty's favor in the Eastern Intelligence Bureau. And go and prepare the Eastern Factory. Don't disappoint us. Yan Chuan said indifferently. Yes. Lu Gang retreated with great excitement. Yan Chuan was left alone to look at the grandest palace, the heaven-facing hall. At the edge of the Eastern Sea, at a place where countless practitioners gathered. In a palace. The former Arhat of the Dae sect and the traitor of the Dae sect, Jiang Nan, respectfully bowed to a middle-aged man sitting on a futon. The middle-aged man was wearing a kasaya and a lotus hat. His face was fair and clean, and his eyes were open with a hint of benevolence. Master. Arhat frowned at the middle-aged man. Junior Jiang Nan greets the Great Wisdom Bodhisattva. Jiang Nan said respectfully. Bodhisattva Great Wisdom looked at the two of them. Sword Spirit? Yan Chuan obtained a treasure sword? Great Wisdom Bodhisattva calmly asked. Yes. Arhat said respectfully. Master Yan Chuan is back. Should we? That Arhat frowned. Great Wisdom Bodhisattva closed his eyes and thought for a while. He shook his head and said, Wait a while more. Since you didn't complete the task, it seems that Yan Chuan is different from what we imagined. Get someone to investigate Yan Chuan's recent situation. Also, find out where Yan Chuan has been all these years. Yes. That Arhat said respectfully. Another 2 months passed. It was still the same hall. Great Wisdom Bodhisattva and his disciple Jiang Nan and Shinkuan Kuroha stood in the hall. Jiang Nan? You are really lucky to be able to worship the Great Wisdom Bodhisattva. Shinkuan Kuroha smiled at Jiang Nan. Chapter 628. It's all thanks to Master's generosity that I have the chance to listen to Master's teachings. Jiang Nan immediately said with a smile. Shinkuan Kuroha nodded and turned to look at the Bodhisattva of Wisdom. Esteemed envoy, have you seen the news about Yan Chuan? Shinkuan Kuroha took a deep breath. The Bodhisattva of Wisdom looked at Shinkuan Kuroha and smiled. Shinkuan Kuroha is too polite. You can just call me Wisdom. How can that be? You were sent by His Majesty, so of course you're the esteemed envoy. Shinkuan Kuroha said politely. All right. The Bodhisattva of Wisdom nodded. Yan Chuan shone brightly at the Julu Academy's Heavenly Bestowal Conference. Who would have thought that in just a few years, Yan Chuan would have grown to? Sai, if I had known, I would have eliminated him. Shinkuan Kuroha said in a deep voice. I'm also very surprised that Yan Chuan has grown to this extent, but the so-called resistance against Mohina Dojin is a joke. Golden Dragon of Destiny? Looks like Kong Susu passed down the news and even passed it on to her son. The Bodhisattva of Wisdom took a deep breath. Golden Dragon of Destiny? Esteemed envoy, even His Majesty knows it? Shinkuan Kuroha said in surprise. Looking at Shinkuan Kuroha, the Bodhisattva of Wisdom nodded. That's right. In the Kong family's archives, His Majesty found an incomplete book called Building the Heavenly Court. It recorded the method to build an immortal kingdom. For this, His Majesty had already built a Buddhist kingdom in the West. Kong Susu had seen it before and thought that it was over since Kong Susu had died. Who would have thought that she had actually left behind a record and allowed Yan Chuan to obtain it? Yan Chuan wants to build an immortal kingdom? Shinkuan Kuroha's expression changed. Didn't you already know? The Bodhisattva of Wisdom said indifferently. I knew. When the news came from the West, I thought that Yan Chuan had gone mad. Build an empire? Build a mortal kingdom? So it's the celestial nation. Shinkuan Kuroha was slightly surprised. Shinkuan Kuroha took a deep breath and said, Esteemed envoy, I will send someone to kill Yan Chuan right away. Who are you sending? Great Wisdom Bodhisattva laughed. Shinkuan Kuroha smiled bitterly and said, Alas, my great winged heaven school still has 2 middle void stage elders. Unfortunately, they don't really listen to my orders. You should go into seclusion and not come out, otherwise. Don't worry. Yan Chuan is only in the Qi state now. His performance at the Heavens Bestowment Conference was all because of the Golden Dragon of Fortune. That's nothing. Once he possesses the Golden Dragon of Fortune, his body will be extremely weak and vulnerable. As for that sword? Hey, your great winged heaven school's treasure might not be inferior to that sword. Great Wisdom Bodhisattva laughed. That's right. Shinkuan Kuroha nodded. Esteemed envoy, I will send someone over now. Destroy Yanjing and kill Yan Chuan. Shinkuan Kuroha said solemnly. Great Wisdom Bodhisattva shook his head and said, Wait a little longer. I want to see the nation he built. I will report to the Lord later. Great Wisdom Bodhisattva said. All right. Shinkuan Kuroha nodded. Don't worry. Yan Chuan seems to have had a lot of fortuitous encounters in the past few years, but his foundation is too weak. How can he be a match for your great winged heaven school? The Lord's mission for you is to guard the East and wait for the Lord to take over the world. All you need to do is respond. Great Wisdom Bodhisattva said. Esteemed envoy, don't worry. My great winged heaven school will not disappoint the Lord. Shinkuan Kuroha said solemnly. The 9th of September will be here soon. Great Wisdom Bodhisattva sighed with his eyes squinted. Chapter 629. September 9th, Double Yang Day, Yanjin. The day of the Divine Lord Investiture ceremony was approaching. Yanjin's skyward palace. The doors of the palace were tightly shut. Outside the palace, millions of soldiers stood in neat rows. They were all dressed in armor and looked very mighty. Although there were a few people who were looking around, under the solemn atmosphere all of them became solemn. The million-strong army was made up of mercenaries that Yi Feng had recruited from a large number of cities. Due to the lack of time, they had only made some simple rules. Around the periphery of the million-strong army, there were nearly 100,000 scattered practitioners gathered in the mountains and forests around them. Most of them were Confucian cultivators from the Julu Academy who had been invited by Yan Chuan. There were also cultivators from the surrounding cities and sections. After all, recruiting a million-strong army was too grand a scene. Many cultivators came to watch and observe the ceremony. Divine Lord Investiture ceremony? Why is it founding a nation? A Confucian cultivator was puzzled. Yeah, didn't the virtuous paragon Yan Chuan want to establish an academy after obtaining the Divine Lord Investiture scroll? What's going on? Another Confucian cultivator was puzzled. The Confucian cultivators were still puzzled. There was a transcendent existence among the Confucian cultivators. Greetings, Dean of the Julu Academy. The Confucian cultivators looked at the old man in white. The old man was the dean of the Julu Academy, Meng Ziqiu. Meng Ziqiu smiled and shook his head. Everyone, I'm no longer the dean of the Julu Academy. The current dean of the Julu Academy is the virtuous paragon Yu Yi. Yes, old dean, you are a role model for all of us. Senior Meng, What do you think about Yan Chuan's founding of a nation? A Confucian cultivator asked respectfully. All the Confucian cultivators looked at Meng Ziqiu. Meng Ziqiu shook his head and said, I don't know the details. Let's wait and see. All the Confucian cultivators nodded. On the other side, the disciples of the major sects were also watching from afar. Founding a nation? Is Yan Chuan crazy? Yeah, recruiting a 1,000,000-strong army? How many spirit stones would that cost? What's the use of a nation? Is it for mortals? Curious voices kept coming. More than 20 black-robed men were standing at the mouth of a mountain in the south. They were led by Shinkuan Kuroha and Great Wisdom Bodhisattva. He really founded a country and recruited 1,000,000 soldiers? Shinkuan Kuroha asked with a strange expression. Great Wisdom Bodhisattva squinted his eyes. Build the celestial court? Kong Susu must have left it to Yan Chuan. Emissary, should we make a move now? Shinkuan Kuroha asked in a deep voice. Let's wait a little longer. I want to see his Sea of Providence. Great Wisdom Bodhisattva shook his head. Yes. Skyward Hall Plaza. There was a huge platform right in front of them. The high platform was covered with a red carpet all the way to the Skyward Hall. Lu Jin stood on the high platform with a horsetail whisk in her hand. She looked up at the sky and suddenly shouted, The time has come. A loud shout rang out. Whoa! Dong dong dong. The sound of war drums and the sound of beast horns could be heard all around. All of a sudden, Beijing was immersed in a grand atmosphere. Bang! The gate of the Skyward Hall was opened. Dozens of officials stood in the hall and bowed respectfully to Yan Chuan, who was sitting on the dragon throne. Yan Chuan wore a black and gold dragon robe, a pair of boots with 5 dragons on his feet, and a black jade crown on his head. He looked extremely majestic. Yan Chuan slowly got up from the dragon throne as the gate opened. He slowly stepped down from the dragon throne and walked towards the gate of the hall. A group of officials waited respectfully. When Yan Chuan reached the gate, they followed behind him in an orderly manner. Chapter 630. Whoosh. With a wave of his dragon robe, Yan Chuan stepped out of the Skyward Palace and walked toward the high platform in the distance. Dong, dong, dong. Oh, 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 oh. War drums and beast horns sounded. The 1,000,000-strong army watched as Yan Chuan walked toward the high platform. The officials followed behind him. In a large hall in the royal palace, Qing Long, Bai Long, Rosefinch, and Xuanwu followed behind Mo Yushi. Miao jumped onto Mo Yushi's shoulder. Miao, you look so mighty in the dragon robe. Miao said excitedly. Yes. Mo Yushi smiled. Prince Yin has finally established his kingdom. Qing Long exclaimed. Kingdom? Once this kingdom is established, it will not be weaker than any low-level sect. Mo Yushi said with certainty. Qing Long shook his head and smiled bitterly. Saint Lady, you might not know this, but the first thing Prince Yan did after establishing his kingdom was to destroy the Great Winged Heaven School. What? Bai Long was shocked. How is that possible? Rosefinch was also in disbelief. Qing Long shook his head, not knowing how to explain. Let's wait and see. Mo Yushi's eyes flashed with excitement. Not far from Mo Yushi's palace, in another palace, Bai Ditian stood with his hands behind his back, and several demons followed behind him. Establishing a kingdom? Paragon, what is Yan Chuan trying to do? A demon frowned. Yes, Paragon. How can he be willing to establish such a low-level government? Why is our tiger race stationed here? Another demon frowned. Speak less and watch more. Bai Ditian said in a low voice. Yes. The group of tiger demons nodded. Who was Bai Ditian? 8,000 years ago he was the paragon of the tiger race. Back then the tiger race was invincible. 8,000 years later the tiger race had declined, and Bai Ditian had returned. Who would dare to defy him? A few months ago when Bai Ditian found the group of demons they were really shocked. However, they were even more elated and immediately pledged their loyalty. Although Bai Ditian had not subdued all the tigers in the world in this year, there was not enough time. He had already sent a large number of tiger demons to the tiger race's territories to gather the tiger race's forces. Today was the 9th month Yan Chuan's kingdom's establishment ceremony, Bai Ditian naturally, with a group of tiger demons. In the distance on the red carpet, Yan Chuan had already reached the stage. The officials stood respectfully at the side. Yan Chuan looked at the high platform, stroked his dragon robe and walked up step by step. The Dragon Emperor's SSS step Dragon Kingus on the stage. There was a jade table, a futon, and Lu Jin. Lu Jin was wearing a eunuch robe and bowed respectfully to Yen Chuan. Yen Chuan nodded and took out the investiture of the gods and the great heavenly seal. He placed the two items on the jade table. Kneel to the heavens. Lu Jin let out a long howl. Yen Chuan waved his dragon robe and knelt on the futon. He opened his arms and bowed to the heavens. Bow. Lu Jin roared. Yen Chuan bowed respectfully to the heavens. Bow again. Bow 3 times. As Lu Jin roared, Yen Chuan bowed respectfully to the heavens 3 times. Rise. Yen Chuan stood up. First bow to the heavens, thanking the heavens for their blessings. Second bow to the earth, thanking the earth for its grace. Kneel on the ground. Lu Jin roared again. Yen Chuan knelt again. He opened his arms and bowed again. Bow. Bow again. Bow 3 times. Lu Jin roared. Rise. Yen Chuan stood up. End of ceremony. Lu Jin roared. After that, Lu Jin bowed respectfully to Yen Chuan and slowly left the stage. Chapter 631. Only Yen Chuan was left on the high platform. Yen Chuan was dressed in a dragon robe. He looked around and slowly placed the great heavenly seal on the investiture of the gods. He pressed the imperial seal with his right hand and looked around solemnly. He slowly opened his mouth. From today onwards, I, Yen Chuan, kowtow to the heavens and earth. I have been blessed by the heavens and earth. I have established my country as Zhen. The great Jin dynasty has received the mandate of the heavens. May it live forever. Rumble. When Yen Chuan said the word Zhen, the investiture of the gods suddenly rumbled. A large Zhen word slowly appeared on the investiture of the gods. Yen Chuan reached out and picked up the great heavenly seal. Roar. A dragon roar suddenly shot into the sky from the investiture of the gods. Following the roar, everyone saw a huge golden dragon suddenly charge out of the investiture of the gods. The golden dragon was 3,000 meters long. It had a ferocious look in its eyes as it roared into the sky. As the golden dragon soared into the sky from Yen Chuan's high platform, a majestic gale shot into the sky. The gale blew away all the clouds in the sky. The golden dragon flew into the sky, surrounded by boundless providence. The dragon swayed its body and floated at a certain height. A large amount of providence slowly spread out, forming a huge sea of providence clouds. Above the sea of providence clouds, the golden dragon suddenly twisted its body and roared into the sky again. Roar. The dragon's roar pierced through the heavens and the earth. At this moment, the ears of the million-strong army were filled with the joyous dragon's roar. The countless Confucian cultivators and cultivators in the surroundings all held their breaths as they looked at the sky. They were extremely shocked because the dragon's roar was like a demonic sound that pierced their ears. It went straight to their hearts and brought with it a majestic feeling. On the second day, the sun at 7 in the morning seemed to emit a noble aura that illuminated the entire great Jin dynasty. Lu Jin, Huaguang Yifeng, and the other officials shouted respectfully, "Long live the Emperor! Long live the Emperor! Long live His Majesty! Long live His Majesty!" The million-strong army subconsciously followed suit. The solemnity of this moment seemed to have infected everyone. Together they bowed to Yen Chuan on the high platform. "Long live His Majesty! Long live His Majesty!" The people all around Yanjing said respectfully. The golden dragon of Providence's roar was so powerful that it instantly rushed to all the cities of the great Jin dynasty. When the citizens and officials of the various cities heard this sudden dragon roar, they were all filled with shock. Long live His Majesty! All the lands of the great Jin dynasty worshipped Yen Chuan. Just as De Zhen was bowing to Yen Chuan, a dragon roar sounded from the east of Yanjing. Everyone looked over and saw a tall mountain rising from the ground in the distance to the east of Yanjing. No, it wasn't a tall mountain but a mountain range. A huge mountain range that was heading east of Yanjing. Mountain ranges rising from the ground? Is that the dragon vein of the great earth? Someone exclaimed. A dragon roar was also heard from the west of Yanjing. Suddenly, a dragon vein rushed over from the west of Yanjing. Roar! 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 The south, north, southeast, northeast of Yanjing. Dragon roars could be heard from all directions of Yanjing. 100 dragons roared, and 100 dragon veins rushed towards Yanjing. 100 dragons roared. For a moment, the roars of dragons could be heard everywhere in Yanjing. 100 dragons roared, as if they were the golden dragon of Dejian's providence. The golden dragon of Dejian's providence kept roaring. The entire land of Yanjing suddenly trembled in the roar. It was as if there was an earthquake. The earth trembled and 100 dragon veins rushed over. What's going on? The earth is rising. The earth is rising. Countless cultivators exclaimed. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.